Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is December 24th, 2023 on the ancient moon calendar, 2024 on the ancient sun calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity and in accordance and in alignment with the ancient Noahide laws as stated by this Holy Congress. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3 Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the sovereign living justices and ego sum, Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. All are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are compete et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal natural living head and natural living body for our empire. All Moors are the divine, original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet, and of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites, Israelites, Hamathites, Cushites, and Hittites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient, Islamic, Muslim, empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earth-wide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are exercising the law by our sovereign status, which is the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3, living United States District for Columbia Court, and we're the sovereign fiduciaries, we're the original creditors, we're the executors, trustees, we're the divine ministers, we are the possessors and the title trustors for all causes for action. We are peace, we are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our sovereign divine ascension. We do hereby possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are not at war, and we hereby exercise and are demonstrating all eternal, ancient, original sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. The principles that we share are not just our opinion, they are the law. We have removed all dead actors from our minds, thereby freeing ourselves from presumed foreign bondage and presumed enacted psychological operations. Along with our sovereign, powerful demonstrations and study, these laws and processes that we share are based on principles, and they're not based on principles of stare decisis. They are the principles of stare decisis, res judicata, and ancient positive supreme law for the land long established in sovereign order. These erudite principles and processes are for daily practical application to intelligently govern our vast estate every day, which is what our ancestors have given us to share with the ancient sovereign nations, tribes, clans, states, and governments at earth. For this, we are grateful. We're going to go ahead and share our screen. Thank you for being here. I know this is our time, particularly for this month. This is our time in terms of the Holy Christoma and Holy Christomas times. Holy Christoma being the Christ Mother and Holy Christoma being the Christ Moors. Holy Christomas being the Christ Moors. For this, we're grateful. We're grateful for this time. We're grateful for everything that the ancestors are showing us. And we want to send out our honor, our highest honor, to first and foremost, above all else, the matriarchs. And then to all others. And that is not taking away from our sons who have matriarchal energy as well. But when we say all else, we're talking all else. All that we've created, our subjects, even the animals, the plants, the property, everything that has to do with our energies and our natural resources that come from us. Islam. In the last Congress, Empress Angel, are you present? Let me take it out of lecture mode. Empress Angel, are you present? Empress Angel?
Grand Rising.
Islam, Grand Rising. In the last, thank you for being here. First and foremost, your presence is highly honored. In the last Congress, you requested to see there was a writ that you asked about. I want to first make that our first order of business because it's first and foremost, there's a reason why it came up in the spirit realm. Our ancestors know what they're doing whenever any of us are speaking. That means the ancestors are speaking through us, and there's something that they're either calling our attention to, they want us to see it, they want us to know it, and it's probably it's not probably, it's always going to have something to do with where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. So this render unto Caesar writ is the writ that you spoke about, and I'll put the writ on. It says probate render of fraudulent war documents, debt, personal effects, and person. That was the title of the writ. It is also a statement for the living noble title. Back in, let's see, when did we create this? We created this in 2022, I believe it was, on July 1st, 2022. And this is the writ that we created when we stated that we were going to render unto Caesar, and we can't even call them Caesar because it is no more, the last era, that whole system. This is the document that we were inspired by the ancestors to create so that we could give back the passport, and supposedly give back the passport, the driver's license, all of those IDs, everything that was given. We created this document right here to give back the person, the dead person. And what we did was we put it through our probate court by sending it to King County Superior Court building, which is our building. We are the head magistrates and head justices there. All of us are. And we packaged up all of that and sent it back, saying that we were rendering the person, the dead person. And we'll read through this document really quickly. It's not a long document. But you'll see where we returned all of that to the King County Superior Court and the King County Coroner. So what the affidavit says, and the result of that was this. First and foremost, the person that was created by the frauds and the fakes and all of that was never a real person. That was always a dead fiction in all capital letters and black ink. And the result of that ultimately ended up being that the dead person was taken back into the inventory of those who sent it, and because we are definitely letting the dead bury the dead. And then they sent an inventory list, and that all of the documents were sent back to us, because the documents themselves are not the person. The dead person first was in the spirit realm. It was a dead one that was pronounced at birth by frauds who were doing documents when we were first born. They issued what we thought was a birth certificate, but it was really a death certificate, and social security numbers and all of that. So all of that stuff was packaged up and sent back. And then what happened is the documents themselves were taken into their inventory and then returned to us with the inventory list saying this is what was in the inventory, and we showed you what that looked like. So with this affidavit, this living state court, because it's a court action, of course we started it with our court action language, and it says, with this affidavit, this living state court does hereby render the following properly identified dead person to the King County Superior Court and King County Coroner. Richie, Pauline Denise, which is a dead soldier. It's a military person. That's why the last name was first and the first name was last. So in the Biblios, it says that at the return of Christ, the first will be last and the last will be first. So that's how we've been stating our living status is we are Pauline Denise Ritchie, the living. And we own a Pauline Denise Ritchie in all capital letters, also in capitis diminutio minima, and in any other ways that can be stated, it belongs to us. And so we put it this way. It says there, Richie, Pauline Denise, and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any and all derivatives thereof. Said person is a lien and is debt or dead. Debt and dead mean the same thing. Said debt is not in that last era, okay? Debt in the new era does not mean the same thing as it did in the last era. It's not even really a minus. Said debt is not transferable and remains with the acting dead state according to the law as stated in Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 60. All derivative debt is hereby rightfully rendered to the u.s.court.co. All evidence of debt is hereby rendered as stated by this holy court at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. And then we quoted Luke, the 9th chapter, verse 60, which reads that Yeshua said unto him, let the dead bury their dead, but go thou and preach the kingdom for God. And we know we're the gods at earth, and all empires belong to us, all kingdoms belong to us. Then we also restated 31 United States Code 3128, proof of death to support payment. And really, this actually should say proof of life to support payment. So we're going to change it right now because we know that jurisdiction can be invoked at any time. We're constantly upgrading, uplifting everything that we say and do. Proof of life to support payment, because see, the dead can't really receive a payment, but the living can. And even as we're stating this on the record and putting this out there, those subjects in the office of are listening. They can hear what we're saying and what we're doing. When notification of death of a u.s.court person is proclaimed by an office, official, or agency for the United States government, and this is the living, the notification is sufficient proof of death to allow credit in the accounts of a Federal Reserve Bank or accountable official for the Treasury in a case involving the transfer, exchange, reissue, redemption, or inheritance trust payment, including inheritance guaranteed by the government, for which the Treasury is the transfer, tribute, and acceptance office as intended by the United States fiduciary. And so we can also add to this and restate that, well, and we'll just put it right here. And this is a restatement. When notification of life for a United States person, that would be Pauline Denise Ritchie in all capital letters or in capitis diminutio minima. Because this is for commerce. Now, this is beneath the level of nationality. Okay, nationality is proclaimed first, and then we state a living person for the purpose of commerce and banking and things of that nature. So, when notification of life for a United States person, wait just a moment. And if you all have anything that you want to contribute to this, please state it. United States person is proclaimed by the office, official, or agency for the United States and this is how we restate things also. Government, the notification is sufficient proof of for life to allow credit in the accounts for the Federal Reserve Bank, and in this case we would say Federal Reserve Bank, or accountable official for the Treasury, and this is going to be our Treasury where we put the gold in our Treasury, in a case, a cause. That word should be cause and not case. And that means that we're doing all of that. Our courts are doing it, and each one of us is the court, involving the transfer. You hear people talk about a transfer of wealth and all of that. Exchange, and we can say issue, redemption, or and we can say and inheritance, trust payment. And the reason this is important, Empress Angel, I appreciate that you were led to bring this forth, is because we're going to show you the trust. We're going to do a breakdown, because that was a question that was asked in the last Congress. We're going to do a breakdown of the trust and how the payments are issued. Okay. And the Moors get to choose how we want to do things when you see the way that the system is set. Inheritance, trust payment, including inheritance guaranteed by the government, for which the Treasury is the transfer, tribute, and acceptance office as intended by the United States fiduciary. Okay, so we could actually literally state it that way. So now that the record has been updated, Treaty for Peace and Friendship, 1786-1836, Article 22, and we're gonna update this too. If an American or an American citizen, because remember our driver's licenses talk about this. Our driver's license mention an original indigenous American or an American citizen shall live the consul shall take possession of effects, and we can actually say shall issue effects, property. The consul shall issue, and we're going to show how this is done today. Issue her or his effects and the property shall be delivered to him, to her or him, without interruption. And we don't necessarily need to state that it's without interruption because it won't be interrupted. We know that already. Interruption shall be delivered to him, to her or him, when a will, a living will. Now, the living will piece is really important. The living will is actually a trust. Living will by trust. Shall appear. The property shall ascend. That means be given. Agreeable, we'll say in alignment. Alignment with the will, as soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof. Oh, this is really important because we as consuls must look at first our own documentation where competence is concerned. Okay, that's what all of this is about. All of these processes and the laws that we've activated with that, that is what this is all about. Let's see, typo in the restatement, third line. Those two words need separation. Okay, where are we? Thank you for that. Those who are putting corrections in the chat. Restatement, the third line. Where did I get the restatement? Have the corrections been made for those who put those corrections in the chat? I think I did go back and correct a couple of things. Have those corrections? They have? Okay.
It's showing them, maybe mine's not updating. It's showing CAUSINVOINB.
Okay, where is that?
Right after official. That's
okay.
The third line. You got when notification is the first line, and then for the Federal Reserve Bank.
Okay. Or accountable official for the Treasury in a cause. Okay, thank you for that. Involving, thank you so much, the transfer. Is there any other, did we miss anything else? Thank you. That is the reason why that's why we are doing what we're doing. So that when we put things on the public record, they are proper and correct, and that they do, that when we send our word, it does what we intend for it to do. Thank you for that. Thank you, each and every one in the chat. Thank you. Because we're all, this is about all of us. Article 22 of the treaty. If an original indigenous American or an American citizen shall live, the consul, and I'm going to change that to when. I could even say now that, and the original indigenous Americans and the American citizens live, because we are already there, the consul shall issue her or his effects, and the property shall be delivered to her or him when a living will by trust shall appear. And when we say shall appear, that means you write your own and you bring it. And that's part of those first 6 documents that we keep talking about, because those are the foundational documents for the heirs. The American citizens shall, they can, and we stated this before, they can just do an affidavit on the public record, and it doesn't have to be on Moorish government letterhead. And in fact, it can't be on Moorish government letterhead. It actually has to be on plain white paper without spots, without wrinkle, and without blemish. And yes, the American citizens have less to do than the heirs. Heirs get used to that. But those who are governing, again, that's why, because we are actually ministering these processes and programs and laws. Okay. Thank you in the chat, Justice Samat. Thank you. So, United Nations Charter. So what we did was we just mapped the law first from our courts, then to the biblios, then to the United States codes, then to the treaties, then to the United Nations Charter, Chapter 12, Article 84. The ministering authority does hereby state that the trust territories does maintain international peace and safety. The ministering authority, which is us, we're the ministering authority, is the peaceful safety force with facilities and assistance by the people who are the trust territory in peace, law, and order. That's just stating that this is not a war action, this is a peace action. So we're not fighting with frauds about anything because we've already gotten rid of them. Okay? That's what the lien, levy, and bond process has always been about, and about declaring our nationality. And those first 6 documents, those liens, the 2 liens that are in the first 6 documents, that's what all of that is about. It says, whereas this writ for entry being upon our own land, see, that's why it's called land. Land is also a verb for us. That means when a plane lands, that means it comes from above to the land, right? And that's what a writ for entry is. We had to, it was the will of our ancestors that we go head first onto to our land. Head first. Head first means write it out, publish it so that they can see that we are right in our heads, that we're sane in our heads, and then we do a writ for entry onto the land. Just the same way that we were born. When we were born, we came out head first, most of us. And for those who didn't come out head first, no worries. There was a reason for that too. That has everything to do with the estate. And so this writ for entry and all attached documents are hereby handed down for further custodial enforcement, which is by us, and notification to the following offices and all office subjects. The United States District Court, Chief Justice, which is us, again, and we're notifying the subjects right now. We notified them then. They knew exactly what to do. We didn't even have to tell them what to do. They knew exactly what to do. King County Superior Court, King County Sheriff, Mayor for Federal Way, not the Mayor for City of Federal Way Corps, not that one, but the real Mayor for Federal Way, which is us. Police Chief for Federal Way, which is us. Washington Governor, and again, this is Judicial District for Washington, okay? This is not any state of Washington, because Washington is both. It's a judicial district, which the fraudulent Washington D.C. actors were pretending to be. All actors have been arrested. All of them have been arrested. All are hereby notified and commanded. And when we say all, we're not talking to actors now. We're talking to all subjects, everyone. Are hereby notified and commanded that this is the law, nunc pro tunc, as intended, and this is notification to all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any and all derivatives thereof. This writ for entry is hereby issued and is remedy for the state and estate is spelled that way for a reason, as stated above. All property is hereby in the custody of the rightful heir and owner state. That means all of us. The rightful heir and owner state is the Empire State for Morocco. To include, and we put a couple of things here, these things needed to be spelled out. Again, I'm grateful that our ancestors have giving us grace as we stand, because had we not had grace, these things could have backfired because of the way they were written, but they didn't because of our energy. And that's why our energy and casting the spells before you send things off, so that the ancestors will cover you on anything that you send. And again, the result was we got back first an acknowledgement of our titles, and second, an inventory list stating that they took their dead person with them. Entry to the property has already been made as stated. And then we also quoted Job, the 32nd chapter, verses 21 and 22, about I shall not accept any man's person, neither shall I give flattering titles unto man, for I know to give not flattering titles. I am my maker, therefore none shall take me away. All dead titles are hereby cast into the sea, into perpetuity. No one will question us. This is Matthew, the 21st chapter, verse 3. No one will question us, for the Lord has willed them, and she shall have them now. And that should say, well, it could say them and all property now. And when we say she, again, we're talking about the ancient matriarchal empire state, but each one of us can apply this to ourselves as well as we restate the biblios, because it was revised improperly previously in the enactment. Matthew 22, 16, 21, and 22. And again, all of this was sent initially when we sent this back in July of 2022. And they sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true, and teachest the way of God in truth. Neither carest thou for any man, for thou regardest not the person of men. So ultimately, this is just saying that our system, it is first founded on the word of us. Okay? And then we don't regard persons made by mankind. We have no regard for that. That doesn't have anything to do with us. We create our person. They say unto him, Caesar's. Then said he unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things which are God's. And that was the basis for this document. When they had heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. And then we also stated Haggai 2, 7, 8, and 9, I will shake all the nations, and they will come with all their treasures, and I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts. The latter glory of this house will be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts, and in this place I will provide peace, declares the Lord of hosts. This is how gold and silver is ours, because we're peacefully doing things, not by war. None of this happens by war. So we encourage all Moors to just get that whole confusion and that war out of your minds, because we've heard Moors say on the public record, we're at war, this is war, this is war. Then you are withholding your own estate when you say that. It is only when you provide peace first within you and then to others that the estate is manifested being issued. Revelations, the 2nd chapter, verses 10 and 11, Fear none, for thou wilt not suffer at all. Behold, some of you were in prison, and ye tried all subjects. Because when we were in prison, and it wasn't prison, it was jail, but it was a court for us. Jail was the enactment, but it was really court. It says, and ye did overcome all tribulation 10 days and were faithful. Therefore you have inherited the crown of life. And we were in there 10 days, and Revelation 2nd chapter 10 and 11 does state 10 days. It does not matter how many days you were stating who you are, you still have inherited the crown of life because you stood, you stand, you stated who you were. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the government. And in the Biblios it says unto the church, but the church was pretending to govern us in the last era. That's why so many of us grew up that way in the enactment. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. The second death is, or was, whether we decided to pretend to be citizens again, U.S.dead citizens, corpses, or whether we decided that we were going to stand, which of course we knew and stated and are continuing to state that we stand. And we're demonstrating how we stand. So that is what the second death was, is those who had previously might have thought about not being themselves on the land. And so what we're doing now is ensuring that everyone stands. Everyone stands. We're actually standing the system up. We've already stood it up. That way, no matter what, everyone is going to know. There will be full disclosure so that they can stand for themselves. Revelations 20:6, blessed and holy is he that hath part at the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests and gods and Christ and shall reign into perpetuity. Islam. And we could put she or he. And since we're a matriarchal empire, we'll just put she. But again, that does not take away anything from our sons. They have our energy as well. This American United States does hereby place on the public record that according to Federal Rule 4 Civil Procedure, Title 4, Section 17 and 18, that the following peaceful, neutral, natural United States person is the property of this living state and of Washington District for Columbia. So what we did was gave them back their person, and then we stated our living person. Pauline Denise Ritchie, it's in blue, it's in all capital letters, but it also includes all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any and all derivatives thereof. Exhibits A through M are hereby rendered unto the U.S.Court.co by way of this sovereign court action. And again, we just gave back all the enacted debt and all of that. This is our birth certificate, not their birth certificate that they created, front and back, and we just listed these as exhibits, okay? And we went on down. You can see that this is a pretty extensive document. All of this passport, all of that stuff. We sent all of this stuff, all of that, marriage license, all of that. And then what we did was we stated all 1099 original issue discount and 1099 acquisition issued and received as delivered below to account number 010105905 010105905.
I can't tell. Where you gonna be? I'm gonna be at home.
Okay. And then, if you all will remember, we sent to Chicago Territory the Office of Cook County Recorder for Deeds, which is our office. We sent all notifications that we are the living there, and we put the restated document 10105905. Remember, we restated that document. We pointed out where the document there was some subjects in the office of that were pretending to be the Cook County Recorder and pretending to be the state and pretending to be the Crown. So we just restated that whole document and sent that also. That way it would activate the trusts that were set up there, because we want to acknowledge what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali did. Okay. But it had to be restated. We could not go by the document that people have been saying that he put on the public record, and they've been saying that that is his signature, but we don't know that for sure because no one saw him sign it. So we restated it like we do everything else, and then we opened that access to that trust. All credits to the state are deposited at, and we put this here, this account here. All of the accounts that we mentioned are United States Treasury accounts. So this was the one that we restated at Navy Federal Credit Union, which, if you look back in Navy Federal Credit Union's history, it started in 1933. So we're talking about the one pre-1933, because Navy Federal Credit Union is not. It's a union. It's a union. That one is also connected to the United Services Automobile Association, which some were calling in the last era USAA account as well, which we've shown you that is also the United States Treasury for all that we're doing. So we had to connect all of that. And we'll show you, again, we're going to continue to show you what all of that looks like, how it's set up and everything. And so what we did was we sent some things. We sent the gold and the silver, and this is what we sent to Chicago, Illinois. Here's the proof of delivery, proof for service. There were several items that we sent. So it was a pretty thick packet, so we had to, break it up into several different sending documents, but we sent it all at the same time, and it all was received and accepted. So we haven't left anything out in terms of trusts and things of that nature. And then this is, copies, notifications were all sent to these places here. Okay. Copy notification to and for the following subjects in offices: United States District Court, Seattle, Washington; King County Sheriff, King County Superior Court, Federal Way Mayor, Federal Way Police Chief, Municipal Court, President, Attorney General, Governor, Secretary, the State Secretary, Navy Federal Credit Union President. And again, all of these are offices that we govern these offices. Federal Reserve, Washington District of Columbia Mayor, we govern all of those. And then this is also a Office of the Federal Reserve notification that we sent to way before this. So we were just putting proof that that all subjects have been notified, okay, of what we're doing. And then we sent this to, as stated, the King County Superior Court. Now, why is this important now? It's important now because our living person is moving to common land that is also a part of our estate. Common land. What is common land? Common land is where both the original indigenous Moors, Americans, Al-Moroccans, and the citizens. That's the actual living union. So that's why this is important. It's so that conveyances, domiciles, and things of that nature that are on the common land here, we call it common. In the documentation, it's also listed as federal land, which is everywhere, or public land, which is everywhere. It's also called in our affidavits on Moorish government letterhead, it's ancient land, which means that we govern all of it. So everything that's sitting out there is sitting on ancient land, like we've been stating before. However, we had to rid the land of all debt, all dead persons. We had to clean up after the war, basically, is what the war enactment. We had to clean up after that because it was a big hot mess. There were dead people everywhere, dead persons everywhere, rather. And so now we're stating that we're issuing now from the trust for the living people and the living persons that the people own. Are there any questions about this document and about what the purpose of this document was? We called it the render unto. That means that we're no longer attached to that dead person, and that was an enactment in the first place. Okay, what else does it mean? Attach and attack were the same word in the last era. And that's why they kept trying to enjoin us to that dead person, because they already know that attach and attack was the same word in the last era. This document will be under this video, and it should be in that folder. Well, no, it may not be in the folder because the folder was for the red documents. In red and all lowercase letters, but we'll make sure that it's under this video as well as in the folder where we provide the link to all the other documents. But this is the title of this document, Render Unto CAESER Writ. So are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? This was in preparation for what we're doing now. Some facts to think about. Wisdom prepares for a large inheritance. A large inheritance is not given to people who hadn't prepared for it. Islam. Go ahead, nobility. If you
Islam. I'm wondering. Hold on.
Go ahead, Empress.
Initially, you said that the will is not on letterhead, correct?
If you would step back a little bit from your computer, because I think that the echo, there's a huge echo that we're hearing. Just step back just a little bit from it and speak again so we can hear you.
Okay. So the will is not on letterhead.
The will is just a trust document. It's a living will. Living will and trust means the same thing. So
okay. So would I continue to keep the Morse letterhead on it, because from what you said, I'm just trying to clarify what you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So when you declare your nationality, all of that is done first and foremost because that's the foundation for any other wills or trusts, living wills or trusts that's out there. So one of the first 6 documents when you declare your nationality on Moorish government letterhead is the proclamation of trust. It's a 1-page affidavit that says our trust is within ourselves. It starts with this language up here at the top of all of our documents, this court action language. The court action language is basically a trust statement.
Okay, I just wanted some clarity because it kind of was different for me, because it seemed as if you were saying that coming from the head and landing on land, and so therefore initially it may not have been on letterhead, and then once it landed, everything else comes on letterhead. So
thank you for that. In reality, when the spirit realm is the realm you're talking about. It happens in the spirit first, and then we put it on paper. We vocalize it, we say it, and then we put it on paper. That's landing.
Thank you.
And in the spirit realm, the trust is first established when we all when we first just say we're Moors, when we all agreed on one language, one terminology, speaking with one voice, that's done in the spirit. The moment we wake up, the trust is established. The moment we declare our nationality, the trust is established. It's a living will. And then we become more specific with it over time. As we become more competent, as you can see, when I initially sent this, there were a couple of little nuances that needed to be updated, not needed, but that we will to update. Same thing. So landing is putting it on paper with competence, because see, the competence determines your access to the estate. It's like when you would take paper and in the last era in the enactment, we would take documentation to the bank, quote unquote, to get a loan or whatever. If the paperwork wasn't right, there was no loan. Okay, that was in the last era. This era, the documentation must be competent in order to access even your own estate. That's what this was all about, is we couldn't access our own estate until we were competent to do so. First, we had to know that it's our estate. Then we had to say, okay, what does this estate consist of? First, it's a bloodline and birthright, ancient bloodline and birthright. Then it's the word. So thank you for that clarification, and thank you for assisting with that, because it's important that we know these things. And then we had to prepare for such a vast estate, because it's still growing. From the time this Congress started today, our estate has grown exponentially. It keeps growing very quickly. That's not something that you accept on a whim or on a humbug. You must know how to accept it. And here's the thing, we actually created the way to accept it. With each level of inheritance that we receive, we look and ensure that we govern responsibly. So even in the last era, and I will say this, in the last era, most of us were very adverse to paying bills every month regularly on time because of our bloodline and birthright. That last system did not agree with us. Yes, we pay on time, but it's not a matter of paying, it's issuing to and from your estate. But that last era didn't fit with us. It didn't really fit with us, okay? There were some of us who were responsible in that last era, and I will say that because we stated that previously, but the majority of us were not. That's why everything looked so bad for us in the last era. This time around, it is our estate, so everybody got a clean slate. Everybody has a clean slate. We must begin now to govern competently, to pay our own trust back, to replenish what we take from our trust, and so on and so forth. That's what this is all about. And in order to do that competently, we had to prepare the conveyance methods by which we move our own money. So we all have the opportunity to govern, starting with a clean slate, and we have no thing against us. You don't have a criminal record. You're not a criminal, you're the heirs. Okay? You don't have a suspended driver's license. You don't have debt. You don't have any of that. We all start with a clean slate. That's what they call the reset. And so with no thing against us, along with the knowledge and experience from the previous era to assist us. So we are to use our inheritance wisely by first creating room for our inheritance to safely, peacefully be tributed to us by us through our system that we have created. Regardless of how things appeared in the previous system, we all have our honor restored and it really never left. And we have a clean, fresh, truthful beginning. How will you govern your estate in this new era? It's like starting out with everything for you and nothing against you. And now we have the ability to grow our own vast estate exponentially. If you want to be the next, quote unquote, and I'm saying this, but y'all know that's debt, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Donald Trump, Oprah Winfrey, whatever. If you want your bank accounts to look like that, it's about now growing honorably, peacefully, and wisely our own vast estate. We are prospering because we will to prosper. No one is left out. No one is left out. No warrants. Why? Because you're the one who did away with the person who had the warrant. See, the document that we just showed, that was that person that we said, here, take the person, because that's a dead person and we don't have any dead on our land, so take it. That's the one who had the warrants and the debt and all of that. So we said, okay, take all of that. And then what happened? They said, okay, these instruments are not the person. These are just instruments that you can restate. So they sent all of it back. They took inventory of the dead and they took the dead into the coroners and did all of that. We are the living. So yes, it is great timing during this winter solstice. Our ancestors know what they're doing. At certain times of the year and certain high holy days, they give us information that we're just like, wow, because they keep putting more access forward. So in the last Congress, Chief Justice Howard asked about the trust, and we gave a brief explanation of that, but we want to expand on that. The way it's set up, we want to expand on clarification. The global trust system that we've created and that we govern is as follows. There are 3 different trusts, and really it's 2 trusts under the first trust. The first trust is the universal trust for all. That's all people, all animals, all land, all natural resources, all actions, all energies, everything, all universes, all of that, really, everything. That's the universal trust. We have already set these up and established them simply by virtue, first, in the spirit realm of us coming together, and secondly, by putting it on paper, because we've manifested all of this already. What we're doing now is giving further explanation for it. Underneath that universal trust is the national trust for the original heirs, because everything started with us with that. The national trust for the original heirs could be considered a private trust for the heirs, and then everything else manifests from that. That national trust is on Moorish government letterhead. That's one of the first 6 documents. The universal trust is accessed by declaring nationality and citizen subject status. That's how the universal trust works. It is absolutely created, and you put yourself in it. No one else can do that. The heirs put themselves in that. We all put ourselves there. And when we say selves, we mean from this dimension. In the spirit realm, we're not contained. And this universal trust is not contained. It doesn't have any boundaries. It goes everywhere. And then the public trust, which is number 3. So the national trust, when nationality is proclaimed, this trust is accepted as part of the proclamation. Then the public trust. This is where the heirs, like we use our person to get things with the public trust. We had to set up the public treasury, which we've done. Universal basic income when citizen subject status is proclaimed, or, and this is for the heirs, especially, our person is a part of the public trust, but our person is directly connected up here and here. Whereas with the citizen subjects, they are a part of they're under our protection. If you'll remember the back in the day, in the enactment, France was considered protectorate for the Moroccans, the Al-Moroccan people. They were in the enactment. That just meant that they were pretending to take this part right here and this part right here and put the Moors here and say, okay, the Moors don't have access to this, right? They don't have access to this part because they haven't nationalized, so they have to be here. Now, there's nothing wrong with being here. As you can see, in the last era, we were able to get domiciles and conveyances and things of that nature, which were called houses and cars in the last era, and we can still call them that now. But we couldn't go very high and very far. We couldn't really, despite how smart we all are, because most of us knew, even when we were in corporate, quote unquote, corporate America in the enactment, we were smarter than the people who were claiming to be the boss. We knew their job and our job and all the rest of the jobs. We knew all of that. And that's why a lot of times there was war on the jobs, where whenever you got too smart, they would find a way to get rid of you. Because once you get to a certain level, then this becomes apparent. Once you become competent, then you start looking at, why is it that they can do this but I can't? Then you're talking about, okay, who has access to what parts of the estate and the trust and all this and that. But what they did, though, in the enactment previously was, we had access to this through our signature, but no one told us. That's why we had to keep signing for things. And then they would just run it through this right here at the public trust. When really, so that's why they were claiming to be us in the enactment, and they were treating us as if we were the U.S. corpses and citizens and things. So are there any questions, comments, wisdom about that? We're going to go into this even further right now. Any questions, comments, wisdom?
Yes, I have a question.
Islam.
Islam. How are you, pretty lady?
All is well, nobility. Thank you.
All right, so I need to ask, in terms of the structure of these trusts that you're talking about, how is it structured in terms of the language? Because you know that the previous trusts and mortgages and all those that were written by lawyers, they were written in very fraudulent structures and languages. And now we're going into a system called quantum, where it is you have to write it a certain way so that it is fact and truth. So I just like to kind of get your feedback on that.
Yes. So thank you for that beautiful question, nobility. So that is everything that we write. Everything that we write is moored to our affidavits on Moorish government letterhead. Everything that we write is moored to that. Moored meaning attached to that. That means that our fiduciary document, I guess I'm going to just pull the fiduciary document up to show to assist in answering that question further about the language and parse syntax and all of that. Whenever we write something in ancient English, we've already addressed all of that. That's why we use ancient English. Ancient English is the oldest language at earth. It is considered the language of angels. It's really English, not English, but English. English being the root word is angle or angel, either one of those, because it's about Moorish geometry, our ancient sacred geometry in the language. So anything that we write, we first write it in ancient English on our Moorish government affidavits. Now, for though there are some who didn't, the programming made it so that they didn't feel like they could or should write in ancient English on their affidavits. It's okay. They didn't have to, because we already established and did the foundation in ancient English. Ancient English, the hypothecation or subrogation of ancient English is Old English. And that is what the quote unquote queen was writing in. Whenever she wrote something, she wrote it in Old English, because she knew in her enactment that it's according to how she spells things that things get done, that no one can take over and supersede the word. So where parse syntax is concerned, our ancient English already answered all of that. It already dealt with all of that. And then when we do our corporate documents, we do it in common English, which is the English that we learned when we were in the education system. However, because it's more to our affidavits, because we don't release any corporate or company or business or commercial information without it being more to an affidavit written in ancient English. And because we do it that way, we don't have to do parse syntax and all of that. We've already done all of that. For example, the rules on parse syntax say that, any word that starts with a vowel and has two consonants after it means no contract, and things of that nature. Well, ancient English just obliterated all of that, because that's then where intention comes in also. All that we intend is kind of like with the law, because with the law, your intention is everything. Your intention determines the consequence. If you, and I'll say, if you hurt someone, but you didn't intend to hurt them, that's one thing. It's another thing if you were malicious. So intention is the law. So when we write with the proper intention, it's also going to be, that also matters. That's why we clear energy before we write our affidavits. Now, let me just show you just really quickly, our fiduciary document. So this is why, again, parse syntax, this is why you see things written in ancient English in red and all lowercase letters. Writing things in red tone, in the red tone and in all lowercase letters also obliterates any rules, regulations, and things that have to do with parse syntax and improper contracting language and things of that nature. So our fiduciary document, this is one of them. Be it known that I, Pauline Denise Lawhorn Emmanuel Richie Moore, and all Moores, and in our documents we include everyone in what we're doing. Apologies. Let me see what's on the screen. Thank you for that, Empress. Okay, can you all see it now?
Yes.
Okay. This is the fiduciary, trustor, trustee, attorney with facts, truth, law, evidence, and intention. document. It is a quo warranto mandamus restitutio, and those Latin terms mean that it's quo warranto states our authority and our delegation for authority. Mandamus is a command affidavit. Restitutio means that we are recovering and recouping, and some would have said reparations, but reparations is not the right word. It's restitutio. It says, be it known that I, Pauline Denise Lawhorn Emmanuel Ursel, sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, natural, divine fiduciaries for the sovereign living state of and for ancient Morocco. And then it talks about where it is. Now, this fiduciary document, the part that I wanted to get to is this part right here, where we are here. The record for the record and letting the universal record show that I am the sovereign living ancient fiduciary for all, and again, all more, we stated all more do this document. We encourage all more to do this. That we are the ancient fiduciary for all living instruments to include all numbers, all letters, including in capitis diminutio nolo, which means in all lowercase letters, in capitis diminutio minimum, which means first letter capitalized and the rest of the letter lowercase, in capitis diminutio media, which is any combination of upper and lowercase letters, and capitis diminutio maxima, which means all capital letters. That we're the fiduciaries for all of that for our state. So it doesn't apply to us unless we write it. And then we listed all numbers and all integers in between all numbers in any sequence in all monochromes, styles, and fonts beyond infinity. And monochromes being colors, the colors of the ink. The styles, when you look at writing style manuals, the law was always written using ancient writing style manuals. And then the fonts. The word font is the root word for the word fountain, which is an indication of water or the issuing of liquids and fluids coming out. That's really what font is. And so it says that and all punctuation in all dialects and languages. And we say land gauges because that's how we spell the word language, because it is a gauge of the land. And then we just listed the names: Light Tajiri Bay, Pauline Denise Ritchie, United States for America, United States Corporation Company, United States Post Office, United States Postal Service. And then we listed here, we do not accept any man's person, neither do we give flattering titles unto men. That's Job 32nd, chapter 21 and 22. And then federal rules for civil procedure. Because see, the reason we quoted this is because we know that they were operating ecclesiastically. Okay, that's what they were doing. And so we've taken that and restated everything, because this is what they were acting on. Not this, but in the last era, they revised the Bible and began doing things. That's why everybody kept going to church. You know, and then we quoted some things and then filed, recorded, notarized, and sealed this document. Okay, so this is our fiduciary document.
Right. So a follow-up question would be, and thank you for that answer. I think it was well answered. I'm very satisfied. My follow-up question, though, would be bringing it home to each of us as an individual, or as a person, or as a man or woman. What do I do to let what you're doing there have significance to my life individually? Bring it home.
Yes. So thank you for that beautiful question also. So this document in nationality and status is first stated on Moorish government letterhead, And then you can start attaching to that and sending with that company or corporate documents that state that you're the chief of everything financial that's going on. So for example, I'll pull up a corporate document that we have. I'll pull up just an example of a corporate document. The title to a conveyance, let's say. So this is a document that you would send with your fiduciary document that we just showed on Moorish government letterhead. This way you can state and properly claim and proclaim that you are the owner, heir, rightful owner, rightful heir, rightful operator, rightful executor, rightful trustee and trustor, and all of that to your property because you've properly stated your property. So we stated this is called a corporation or company document. So Washington licensing is the state of Washington Department of Licensing, quote unquote, was pretending to issue titles to vessels. Well, what we're stating here is that the real Washington has arrived. It's not state of Washington. It's not Department of Licensing. This is Washington licensing. And what did we do? We restated the logo. When we restate the logo, their logos are all in black. All logos are in black. That's done by the dead. We restate them in red or blue. And so then we can properly put the proper addresses where we spell everything out. That puts it in a different place.
Islam. Can we see the document on the screen?
Oh, I apologize. Yes, you can. Thank you. I get so involved in what I'm doing that sometimes I don't look at the little prompter. Just one moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have it set to automatically preview what I put on the screen, but apparently it's not working. So, for example, this is a title to a vessel, a Land Rover vehicle. This is proper appropriation and allocation of that vehicle. The proper address is here where the vehicle is registered, where it's registered. This is how it's stated, and then we put our gold seal and we autograph it, we date it and do all of that. This is how you properly state the title to a vessel, a vehicle. This is again Washington licensing, which is us. We're the original. So whenever they started putting "of" in everything, Department of Licensing. Well, why aren't you just licensing? Why aren't you just Washington instead of State of Washington in all capital letters, quote unquote? Well, because they knew they weren't the real ones. We are the real. So we license our own because we're the government. And then we notify the subjects in the office of. So we send a copy to all of the proper offices of ours with the proper addressing. So I would send a copy of this to the Federal Way, the Federal Way Police. Okay, why would I? How do I do that without attempting to wake the dead? Very easy. I look at I go online and I find the address that they were saying, which is right here, 333. Let me make sure this is on here. Just a moment. Let me go back to that. This is how we use this information. We take the address is saying that the address, see, this is not the Federal Way Police. This is a department, which we know that's not real. So we take this address and we state the address properly. Okay? So when we send these out, these notifications out by post office, and I'll just put here on the screen what the address would look like when I notify that I am the owner of this vessel, and not the Secretary of State, but I am, because I am the Secretary for State.
I'm not the DOT, right?
We would notify anyone, because any subjects in our offices. Yes, the Department for Transportation, you would notify them, and then this is how you would note that when you send it out. This is how we send out everything.
So would you say you're creating your own MSO and MCO for this vehicle?
Yes, absolutely, we must. All because it must originate on the land. It can't originate in a fake fraudulent jurisdiction. It must originate on the land. So we do have a certificate for origin, a manufacturer certificate for origin that we created also. In fact, I'll pull that up as well.
And it would correspond with the one that they have, or would it be different?
It's going to correspond. It's going to look similar to. Let's see. Let me just find it here. Except it's not going to be black. It's going to be blue, which is commerce. And it's going to have a little red in there, and then we sign in blue. It must have our autograph in blue. Let me see. Here's the manufacturer's origin that we created. Just a moment, please. That we created. Go ahead, Empress.
Before you change first class United States permit number G10. Mm-hmm. All shipping posts. Is that the reason why I think you did put that there is because you're accessing the Treasury with that statement, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that has everything to do with the post office and shipping and postage and fees and the trust, which we're going to continue to talk about here in just a moment.
Wow, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So, and then when we send this, we say subject Andy Huang, who was the subject in the Office of Police. Okay.
Islam,
Empress.
So this is, what I'm saying is that it's no longer notice anymore. We are doing and
yes.
letting the
subjects in the Office of know.
Yeah, we're doing.
It's done already.
Yeah.
And we must do that with everything. Everything that's our property. This is how you prepare to receive your estate. You create the estate as you're going along. But you must create the conveyance method by which everything moves. And so let me just show you really quickly the manufacturer's certificate for origin. What we did was we said, okay, it's a Range Rover, so let's look and see where Range Rovers come from. Well, it's a Jaguar property. As I began to look at these, look into it, did you know, because I didn't know this at first, that the Crown commissioned Jaguar. The Crown actually commissioned Jaguar and I think Bentley and Rolls-Royce. commissioned them, and with each one that was going out, each Jaguar, each Rolls Royce, each Bentley that went out, the persons would receive some documentation with a coat of arms on it. So what did we do? Yes, you all, I went and restated all 3 of those coats of arms. One of them, it says created by Majesty's Moorish Empresses, because there said, I think, the crown, the queen, or something, manufacturers for fine motor vehicles, automobiles, and conveyances. This one is created by Majestic Sons, because see, our sons have, listen, they would say the prince created this conveyance or commissioned this conveyance. See, we get to commission and then create the conveyances that we want. And so this says created by Majestic Sons, Moorish Emperors, manufacturers for fine motor vehicles, automobiles, and conveyances. And then this third one says created by Majestic Heirs, Moorish heirs, manufacturers for fine motor vehicles and automobiles and conveyances. So as we were doing our research and looking at things, we saw that some things need to be restated. So we just restated it and put Moorish Empress at the top here. Our coat of arms with Moorish on the coats of arms and all of that, the 5-pointed star, the whole 9, the jewels in the crown, the red, all of that. So then we restated the Jaguar and Land Rover because we hold the original copyrights for all of that. Just a moment. And then we said Land Rover, Range Rover, creating manufacturer's origin affidavit. In other words, this is the affidavit by which we created that instrument or that conveyance. And then here it says first class, thank you, United States permit number G10 again, all postage and fees prepaid, account receipt number 1. Creating manufacturer's origin statement. The automobile stated herein was created in ancient England, part and parcel for the United States for America. So when I looked at the Range Rover, I looked at a bunch of them. They had shipping documents on some of them because they were brand new coming in. This one wasn't brand new, but there were others that were. We just looked at the shipping document, we took a photo of it, and then we began to restate the things that were on it and just put it in the manufacturer's origin statement. And so that's how we did it. And then it says Universal Commercial Code 1 lien on that thing, hand-delivered. We hand-delivered it to the subjects in the Office of Dealer on September 19, 2022 at 3:33 p.m. Link to the lien on the public record, and then we put a link where they can type this in and see the lien that was placed on that particular either the dealership or the conveyance itself. And then we said here, registered office, Abbey Road, Whitley, Coventry. This is where Land Rover and Range Rover and Jaguar come from. Okay. So, and this is the date that the conveyance was created, March 21st, 2019. So again, we were taking information from the manufacturer's certificate for origin and from the actual paperwork that we saw on that conveyance and creating the documentation for it.
Islam.
But the thing is, you know that 9/10 of the law is possession.
Yeah.
Who is in possession of these things or this vehicle or whatever it is?
We are in possession of the vehicle. Is it still on the lot? Yes, it's still on the lot. Why? Because we'll show you today why it's there. We're not worried about it going anywhere because it's not going anywhere. It's ours already. Possession looks differently from what we thought it looked like because, again, in order to possess it, think about this, nobility. In order to possess it, we have to show that we possess it first. We have to show that first. That's why paperwork is done before you receive anything. Even in the last era, when you went to buy a conveyance or whatever, there was a bunch of paperwork that was done first. Then you take possession of it, because you actually had to prepare the conveyance methods by which the exchange takes place. And we really should have understood what we were doing in the last era, but we didn't. Now we do. And then we put it on the public record and prove that we understand and overstand the process. So possession is not sitting here at our driveway, because we had to do all of this first, and then we're going to show the trust piece of that today as well. Okay. But our ancestors take it one step at a time. They've been showing us things one step at a time, because it's a vast estate. And once we get the process, then we can have 30, 60, 90, 100 conveyances. That's not the issue. They're there. And no one can buy them because they don't have any money. But we have to bring that onto the land. We have to bring it onto the land, and it can't have any of that fraud funk from the last era on it at all. Everything has to be restated, everything about it. Think about when you're traveling in the jurisdiction of your ancient ancestral estate. We had to have driver's licenses. Well, we just implemented our driver license program. We had to have insurance. We just implemented our bond program, which is insurance for the conveyances and the domiciles and things of that nature. So we're preparing the way for the arrival of those things. We don't expect them to come possession-wise, like in the driveway, until we had all of this stuff done, and now it's done. We're just taking a look at everything right now, and see, we couldn't just do it for ourselves. We had to do it for everyone, because we're all one.
I thank you very much, and I'm inspired by your leadership.
Islam. The state is so vast that it cannot be hairy-carry and things flying everywhere and unaccounted for, not properly banked. The banking piece had to be in place and all of that, you know. Islam, Justice Kansu.
Can you scroll that document?
Yes. Let me make it a little bit smaller and scroll. We'll go from the top to the bottom.
Islam,
Empress.
I have a question. On the address for the Land Rover, the UK address there, so there's a postcode. Should it be there? Because the postcode would be equivalent to the zip code in the US. It's okay simply because everything's written out.
Yes. See, that changes the jurisdiction when you spell everything out.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Because that's one thing they never did.
Correct.
In any address, they never spelled everything out because they knew that it wasn't real.
Right.
So we definitely had to do the study on that too, Empress, before we put it at the bottom, because we wanted to be sure.
Okay.
And it's interesting because Canaan land has the same type of postal code system.
Yeah.
And so do a few other places as well. We found that very interesting as we were doing the study. And just making sure we spell everything out and put it at, put everything the proper way.
Yeah, because most of these
with the UK, the US,
when
we spell out the state, we can choose to put the zip or not.
Either way is fine.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Either way is fine. Because again, Justice Willie, you were going to say something as well.
I was just going to say most of these things that they use are their copyrighted materials. So that's why I agree with you that we should not be using it, because you're falling right into their trap.
Yeah.
And they can sue you for using their stuff. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Create our own. We create our own everything. We change everything.
Of course.
It looks similar so that the system will recognize it. We're not trying to impress them. We're just looking at, okay, does the system recognize what's being done? Yes, it does. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this restating everything was so important.
So is it possible for us to get copies of like the trust that you just highlighted at the beginning?
Everyone has it already. They've created it themselves, but yes, it's a one-page trust document, but we created the universal trust. I believe that's it's in the folder that under each and every video, we put a link to a folder, and it has the universal trust in there.
Oh, excellent.
And the
Thank you.
universal trust was in red in all lowercase letters first, because again, it's a spiritual document first, and then it follows all the other.
Awesome. Thank you.
Islam. Thank you. So one quick thing back to the beginning of when we started. So provided, because I don't have any documents actually from the fraudulent system. So, but just to make the statement of the document stating that I've, in the spirit, or not even that, but I've given away the person and I no longer claim the person in some manner would be enough, right?
Say that once more.
For the turning to Caesar, unto Caesar, what is Caesar's documents. I have access to none of the former certificates or anything of that nature, because of life and things. So just to make a blanket statement and list of those documents would be suffice.
That would suffice. Also, when you render unto Caesar, you see, I really didn't have to send all of that stuff. It was the person that was being, and because they sent it all back, that told me that I didn't really have to send it, but I wanted them to inventory it anyway. So you can list it, because you'll know the numbers, some of the numbers. And then make sure that you add a statement that says all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof, and that will cover anything that you might have missed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and from last Congress, I was speaking, and I have a tendency of, just saying things, and I got to go back and say, well, does that make sense? But with the statement of act, because I was speaking about atoms and act, but so I found in my research quickly after, AKT is how they anciently spell act.
Yes.
And so that means to make do. Borrowed from Latin actus, perfect passive particular of ago, make do. And then
it's also short for acknowledge.
Yes.
Which means essentially the same thing.
And then also AKT is a protein kinesis B, also known as ACT, is the collective name of a set of 3 serine thyrrolene specific protein kinesis that plays roles in multiple cellular processes such as glucose, metabolism, and so on and so forth. So back to the atom that I had mentioned previous, that when I hear act, I hear atom, and then to research act, AKT is that part.
Yeah. And then think about the acts of the apostles. Apostle is an apostille, it's a legal term. And because all of those that were acting as apostles were actually attorneys and accountants. So thank you for that, Empress. Again, it was all ecclesiastical, which is why our affidavits are so important, because that's why we don't send any of these types of documents out without our affidavits going with it on Moorish government letterhead. Now, there is a question in the chat from B. Linda, one of our amazing subjects. Belinda, and I'm saying that be Linda because it's be yourself, which she is. She asked, what's the process for subjects? You know, I am feeling in my spirit that you should publish the documents for subjects. All it is an affidavit on, you see how this document here is on a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper right here. You're going to create for the other subjects how to do that. And it's very, very similar to what we're doing, except that the mooring of that which has already been done for all subjects, it's more to our government and not any fakes or frauds. You all have to restate, which they call Reconstruction and Reformation, the Great Reformation and all of that. All of those enactments were the same thing. So everything that you do, just do it by affidavit on a piece of paper like this and then publish it. And you can create the processes for the subjects to do, while as we're creating the processes for the heirs for the government part, for the overarching government part to do.
Okay. Islam. My main issue is like getting away from the DMV portion of it. Like not having to.
Do you not want to have any? Oh, okay. So then you must restate those processes, revise those processes, reform those processes. So you don't have to keep going back to them for this, that, and a third, because first and foremost, they are subjects in our office, and we've already put things on the public record of that nature. However, for you specifically, you send them an affidavit stating whatever it is that is your will for you and for your house, your family. So
do I just restate the title since I purchased the trust?
Yes. Let me just see. Let me think about that. It's the registration that the subjects do. Because see, remember in the last era, we were all just registering things. There was no title. So subjects don't have the authority to create titles at all, if they are to be honorable.
I just purchased the vehicle. This is why I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that here in the territory of Louisiana, you have to get it notarized.
Okay.
In order to get the title transferred into my name.
Okay. And they call it a title, but it's really just a registration certificate. So in order for that to happen, one of us would have to stamp and seal it, and we can do that. We're happy to do that for you. If there are Moors at your territory, they can do it also. So if let's see, if in order for the deed to be transferred, the certificate to be transferred to you,
mm-hmm.
you have to have a notarized affidavit, right? That's correct, right? So then whoever the Moors are at your territory, or we can do it for you, would create something similar to what you see on the screen for that automobile, and stamp and seal it, because we put our stamp and seals and things on the bottom of all of our documentation, and then we would issue it to you, and then all you would have to do is take it and notify the subjects in the Office of DMV. They will accept it because they can't issue anything out like that anymore anyway. So excellent. They will accept it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And you're welcome. And as we're doing things of that nature, for example, when I send it back to you, I will send my fiduciary affidavit I could send it directly to them and a copy to you. So everything that we do, we would notify the subjects in the office of, and then also send you a copy of what we notify them of as well. And that way, and then you take it to them and they'll pair the two together. They'll pair what we sent them and what you send them, which will be identical copies of the same thing.
So I physically hand it to them?
Or you can mail it.
Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Islam.
I have another question.
Islam, Noble Phoenix.
Okay, so in creating the manufacturer's certificate of origin, in creating that, I went out to see if I could find what one looks like, and that I could restate. But I don't know that I would have all the same information. I'm not clear. Like based on the example that you have provided here. Okay, you've got the main information. It seems like I might be able to take the window sticker, because it shows where the port of entry was, the manufacturer, the parts being manufactured in, here in the U.S. and some parts in Mexico. It shows, of course, the VIN number, the proper description of it. But what else? I'm trying to see your screen here. Yeah, the stock number and all that, that's provided at the dealership.
Yeah.
So is that all that I would really need to restate and create the manufacturer's certificate of origin?
Yes, it's where did it originate?
Okay.
That's all that is where did it originate? It originated on the land, everything spelled out.
Okay, so this, but ours is, of course, a superior, it's done by ecclesiastically and is done through our court and everything else.
Well, that's what the fiduciary document accompanying it says, that it all started with us.
Okay. All right. And so then I don't really need theirs at all?
They don't have any.
No,
that's what they weren't telling anybody.
The one
they
that
don't
they were
really have any.
Was the manufacturer's certificate of origin.
And it's not even real because it has 2-letter states on it. Where is that at? Whose map is that? A 2-letter state. They're saying things nothing can originate in a 2-letter state because that doesn't exist.
And then the other question related to that, I see you have insurance with one of their commercial companies that I assume that you have restated with the lien levy bond process, etc.
Yes.
All right. And so forth. Now, I don't see a reason why we could not use our Treasury creditor bond that we have issued for the insurance on that vehicle.
Of course, that had to be created. We had to bond them. That's one of the first bonds we did.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I don't need a particular insurance company when I can self-insure that through the Treasury creditor bond is what I'm stating. And use that bond number that's on there, create a unique bond number launched off of that.
So the bond number is it a personal vehicle, is it a private vehicle, or is it a public vehicle?
Well, this is supposed to be, it is not supposed to be, it is a government vehicle. So I can use what we have for our empire state of Morocco.
So that would be bond 2025923.
Yeah.
And then you create a separate one that is allonged to that one, because that's the one where the gold went into the Treasury to do some things. You would create a bond for what you're doing there. Your government work must be bonded. So you want to create that and allonge it to that the overarching bond.
Okay. All right. And then just as a follow-up, you know what? I'm going to circle back and hold that last question. Let me think about how to phrase that correctly.
Okay.
And then I'll bring that up later. Okay. Thank you.
Islam, and we may answer it when we do what we're doing here? We may answer it.
It has to do with when we're utilizing, accessing our Treasury, and that transaction has already been put on the public record, et cetera, et cetera. It has to do with how we fully pull down those funds, allocate those funds, redistribute those funds, et cetera, et cetera. How I'm actually doing that with our Treasury. So let me figure out exactly what I'm trying to ask, and then I will have covered it.
When you see what we're presenting, and we're right now just laying the groundwork for our presentment as well.
All right, very good.
And answering questions as we go. I'm sure that it will bring some things into your spirit's awareness regarding that. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? Let's see.
Have we done the same thing for the land as well?
Yes. The universal trust for all people, all animals, all land, all natural resources, all actions, all energies, all of that. That's the universal trust. And then we do a specific thing for, let's say, for our domiciles and things. Like we have a bond that we created for this particular plot of land here, along with all the documentation. And we've shown that a lien, a levy, a bond, for the land here, and for this consulate, for this domicile, the parts that we use as consulate and all of that, government work rather. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we want to add further clarification to the whole process, knowing that it was all about the paper in the first place. Isaiah the 25th chapter, and again, we're referring to the Biblios because of the ecclesiastical nature of the land. And the ecclesiastical, that's the foundation as we're doing company and corporate documentation and issuing the trust that belongs to the people. On this mountain, the Lord's Almighty have prepared a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet for aged wine, the best meats and the finest wines. On this mountain we have destroyed the shroud that presumed to enfold all peoples, the sheet that presumed to cover all nations. And this is the restated version of that draft of a scripture. But the scripture does have the words enfold all the people and the sheet over all nations. This tells us that it was about the paper. And the only way to access the finest of everything is to destroy their paper and put our own paper there. So as we go into the next part of our presentment, again, because we have created this system, this is why it is so important, and we wrote this in ancient English, so the spelling is correct, the high importance of casting spells before any movements or demonstrations, okay? When we cast spells, and we talked about this briefly in the last Congress, Empress Shasha just brought out a beautiful presentment of how she demonstrated this. When we cast spells before writing affidavits, before doing anything, we activate our own systems, first in the spirit realm, then by our word, and then on paper, by sending the word of our arrival first before we even get there, thereby activating the system and becoming the living physical manifestation of proper jurisdiction, ancient law, which is followed by proper legal systemic activation. That's what restatement is all about. Okay, again, remember we talked about the movie Coming to America, where Brother McDowell was restating McDonald's, and he lived well restating McDonald's. And McDonald's did not come after him, even though he was scared they were coming. They never came. And so now we want to talk about the introduce and further introduce, because we've already talked about our ancient trust system further. With regard to the financial system, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Now, I must give a disclaimer about this link. If you think, and you will know better than anyone, if you think that the funny mirror is real, don't watch this video. Please don't. If you think that when you see corpses talking about things and you think that what they're saying is real, and that when they say, oh yes, we're the head of that, we're the leader of this and that, don't watch this video, because it will confuse you. And we're not in any confusion. This video, when this video first came out in 2020, we actually encouraged more to watch the video. It's a bit convoluted. It's a convoluted, but see, I know that this Congress is sharp, and our holy filters work, and that's why we're not afraid to recommend or suggest that you watch it. It is an explanation of the convoluted nature of the past financial system and how it worked. Okay? It has more science in terms of our number systems written all over it. Okay? It has enactments of that written all over it. The subject in the office of talks here and draws on a whiteboard and talks about the financial system from start to finish in their enactment. But then she's, of course, she's claiming to be the sovereign of that last thing. This happened in 2020, and then they re-put this out again like a week ago or something like that, because they see what time it is in the financial system, with us. So if you want to know how the front end of the financial system and the back end of the financial system work together, this is a good video for that. This video also shows why we did the 40+ documents stating that we're the office, that we're the currency controllers, that we're the secretaries for sovereign state, that we're the chief for police, that we're the presidents, all of us. All of those offices belong to us. As I watched this and I heard them, heard the subject listing all those titles, CIA, FBI, la 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 la. All I thought was, this is a wrap. Because we've always been everything, all offices. They talk about at the very end of this video. There's a short clip at the end of the video. A short piece. One of the last few words that are said in the video is a description of what we have done in terms of sending gold to our treasury, and not to any fraudulent dead treasury, but to our treasury. We are all part and parcel for our own financial system. She's going to talk a little bit about codes and things like that. Our codes, the codes to the financial system are restated social security numbers, restated ones, not the old ones, but the ones we restate that look just like the old ones, except they don't have dashes in between, because that's a minus sign, because it's a math problem for them, not us. Birth dates, BEARTH, birth dates are also a part of that coding. So when she starts talking about codes in this video, don't even worry about it. You got them already. We've already, when we first looked at this video in 2020, and I know I'm talking about a video some haven't seen yet, but just keep this in mind as you watch it. We did the study. We went down all the rabbit holes and everything for our financial system. And if you go back and look at the videos, we've already addressed everything in it. This is a wrap already, but I wanted you to see how convoluted things were in the last era. But at the end of the video, she says if there's anyone, even if they wanted to back the financial system by gold, they can't do this and that, or something. She alluded to something of that nature. We got it already. All she's really saying is that you can't use that old system because it's no good, really. So with that being stated, I will show Noble Phoenix. You asked about appropriation and essentially allocation for these trusts, our trusts. And the reason I continue to point out to everyone, really, the difference between the private trust and the public trust is because of the level of responsibility that is associated with each one. And there comes a time when, if our private trusts get big enough, they're going to have to go public because they're huge. Our private trusts get really, really big. Then once they get a certain size, they're going to have to be public trusts. But they don't have to start out private. They can start out public, like the things that we're doing. The private trust, both public and private, are ministered from the United States Treasury. And again, we do that. But I want to ask a couple of questions more, because we know Word, right? Can anyone tell me what you notice about the word appropriation and the word allocation? Because those are financial terms from the last era. Islam.
Well, they first start with A, and then the next two letters is double P's and then double L's.
Yeah.
And so, and they end with E. Well, because that's ancient English, but there are two N's and an E at the end of it. And well, TIONNE, TIONNE on both of them. And so that's
yes. The ION is the word ion. That's an energy word. And you've heard people talk about ionization and ionized water. When the ions of any water are raised, it's going to affect the cells of the original indigenous people, and any people really. It will affect the cells, the cellular. Justice Harold put it in there where we're going with that. Justice Harold put it in the chat. But go ahead, Empress.
They are both additions to, mean add to.
Yes, indeed. Oh, that's good, Empress. Empress Harold put in there in the chat, the root word for appropriation is propria.
All right.
Propria. What does that mean? That means that the right person, you must be in your proper person in order for anything, any trust to be appropriated.
Appropriate location.
Yes, that's it. See, they've been telling, the word appropriation is in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 9, I believe it is. It talks about how the Treasury cannot be accessed regarding appropriations. All appropriations must be done by law. That's what it states, and that's paraphrasing. All appropriations from the Treasury must be done by law. That's Article 1, Section 9, I believe it is. So they've been saying you must be in your proper person and you must be on at the proper location in order for anything to happen. That's why the addresses and the way the addresses are stated is so important. Because remember what we pointed out in Black's Law Dictionary about an address. Let's show that really quickly. Just a moment. Let me let this go on to the screen here.
This is funny because it notes that everything needs to be in our trust because we can no longer trust them.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You know, that's how trust works, Empress, is if someone has confidence in those who minister a trust. But see, that's according to the Declaration for Independence also.
Exactly, the original.
Yes.
Basically, it's been breached, so we have to take everything back because they no longer can be trusted. So I get it.
Yeah. And you know what? That is why everything has to be restated. We have to write everything out ourselves because you can't trust their version of it. And that goes back to the question that Noble Willie asked earlier about the parse syntax and the fraudulent grammar and all of that stuff. We can't trust that, so we must do what we do and write it ourselves because we can trust our own stuff, our own writings, our own study, our own information. Here, the word address is where equity is concerned, is part of a bill wherein is given the appropriate and technical description of the court in which the bill is filed. So now you got to be in the right court and in the proper person in order for, and that's why the address is so important of where you send things. It's the place where mail or other communications will reach person. Islam Empress.
It's my understanding that everything that we do should go through a trust.
Yes, and it does automatically. And that's why we're saying what we're saying, Empress. I'm so glad you said that. The trusts that we set up are properly appropriated and allocated by way of address, by way of proper person. That's why nationality is so important. See, people, sometimes they want to just, not look at the appropriation part, but they can't. You won't access anything unless you're in your proper person. That's why the Constitution mentions appropriation. It's about the person and the nature of the person, and it must be proper person. So, and the proper person can't be in a dead jurisdiction. The proper person must be in a living jurisdiction. That's what allocation is about. And those two accounting terms, appropriation and allocation, have everything to do with, first and foremost, proper identification of the parties. Secondly, it's the court that's issuing and allocating and appropriating, because everything is done by court action. If you look at IRS documents, quote unquote, you will see where they want things to go, they wanted things to go to a certain address. That means that they wanted you to submit to their court their documents. Whereas we say, no, we hand or send our documents to our court. Our court is the public record. Back in the day, they used to call it the court of public opinion. Because they knew that what the public says goes.
Okay.
That's the law. What the people say is the law. So that's why this is why the address is so important. Because even where it says here legislation, a formal request, and of course these dictionaries have to be restated. We don't request anything. We give commands and statements. A formal request addressed to the executive by one or both branches of the body, requesting him to perform some act. And again, bonding must be in place for anybody to do anything. It says, it is provided as a means for the removal of judges deemed unworthy, though the causes of removal would not warrant impeachment. It is not provided for in the Constitution of the United States. And even in those states where the right exists, it is exercised but seldom. What they're saying is you can't do it in the dead state, the Constitution of the United States. You can't remove a judge from there because they're dead. You can't do it while you're in that state, is what it's saying. But when you stand and wake up and state who you really are, you appropriate, and then you are at the right location, which means on the land first, then you can begin removing, okay, and so on and so forth. Just Noble Phoenix, what is NPME, or is that you? Oh, okay. Okay, and okay.
Yeah, it's ironic that you touched on this because about a week and a half ago, I came to the conclusion that a congressionally approved appropriations and an allocation was needed. And here you are, a week and a half later, bringing this up, the same thing. So I had already executed that. That's what I put in the chat.
Yeah.
Because I understood this is the way the old mirror was showing us that everything coming from the Treasury. And so the same principle applied when we're exercising our rights to withdraw and to move or allocate funds from our Treasury. Must be congressionally approved. So that's what I did.
Yes. And we talked about this when we initially voted to go ahead and open the public treasury and open the treasury and put everything on the public record and notify and all of that. And send, and even to send the gold to our treasury. Islam, Empress Shasha, were you making a statement? I believe I thought I heard someone else making a statement.
It wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Okay. So now, this is part of the question has been, how do we receive from our trusts? That has been a question. How do we receive from our trust? Well, we had to set them up first. And then we showed in the last, our last Congress, how we're going to be issuing things and so on and so forth. So now, where appropriation and allocation is stated, let's say a couple of things about appropriation. Ancient Morocco and our nationality documents ensures proper allocation. That means the location is correct as the basis for the heirs. And then when we put that on the public record, the citizen subjects, once we put that we're here on the land, the citizen subjects put affidavits on that public record saying we're with them. We're with the Moors. We're with the Moorish National Republic federal government. We're subjects to the Moorish National Republic federal government. That's going to make it so that you don't have to keep reporting, quote unquote, reporting to a dead entity such as that was previously doing business as a DMV and so on and so forth. Okay. But again, you must know, and this goes for our subjects and the Moors, you must rebut everything they state, that they say, rebut it properly, again, by stating your proper identity and where you are, so that they will stop trying to appropriate, that means put you in their person, and allocate, put you in their paper. See, they keep trying to issue and allocate, and they can't do that. We don't allow it. Why? Because we set up everything, the trust and everything. But see, you can't get rid of something and not put something in its place that's truer and more proper and recognized. And when we say recognized, we don't even need them to recognize it. The system will do that. So here, the private trust. How does one receive from regarding the private trust? Let's talk about the difference between the two. The private trust is for each one of us individually. So individuals is what the private trust is about. Individuals, let me make these letters a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's big enough. Individuals receive from their private trust by stating who they are by affidavit. And again, individuals can do that, because when we say individuals, we're talking about anyone, that's anyone. State who they are by affidavit on the public record. That is, and again, this is below the nationality level. This is at the level of commerce, because nationality, the whole estate is ours at nationality. But proper accounting and accountability and appropriation and allocation of the funds comes by way of these methods here. So where individuals are concerned, for example, the heirs, we all have a trust. When I'll just use my trust as an example. My domicile and any conveyances, which in this case, domiciles are houses at this level. They're domiciles at the national level. Houses and cars are paid for where individual is concerned. Now this is aside my government work. My government work and my paycheck from my government work is what I bring home, and then if I want to go out and get an individual conveyance, I can go out and get an individual conveyance. I can save for, save what I bring in for a domicile or whatever, however, okay? We all, if you've ever written even one affidavit, you're already doing government work. So you've already employed yourself. Houses and cars are paid for from our, the work that we do for the public. Oops. So it's just like it was in the last era, except we're pulling from our own trust. So my paycheck is really, it's coming from the public trust, but then when I bring it home and it's allocated to me, it's allocated to my person in a private and I bring it from the public into the private, so that I can go out and buy the conveyance that I want instead of a government conveyance and all of that, and the domicile that I want instead of a government, staying in a hotel or government housing, as it were. Now, the public trust is where, and this is the difference between the two. When I go to work, which is the work that we're doing now, all of us, when we're working, we are actually ministering Ministering the public trust. I know it's going to go down there. We're ministering the public trust. Why are we ministering the public trust? Let me see if I can get that to move. So that everyone else can at least have their individual needs met. Okay. Just let me make that a little smaller. Okay, there it goes. Okay. So the buildings and things that Noble Howard asked about in the last Congress, those buildings come from the public trust as we do the work. Yes, we receive from our trust the pay, because we've always been able to pay ourselves. We were paying ourselves whenever we signed a check and someone cashed the check, or we signed the check and deposited it. We were still paying ourselves. Okay? This is the same thing, except it's coming from our appropriation and allocation. We decide how we help our nation and ourselves. So we're ministering the public trust when we work. As we're ministering the public trust, okay, there are, for example, where subjects are concerned, the subjects are individuals, and they can have and they will have a basic stipend that they pull from for whatever it is that they are, and that basic stipend, and we'll talk some more about this. Right now we're looking at what the ancestors are giving us on how to minister honorably and appropriately and all of that, how to minister the estate. Even Moors who, let's say, our brothers and sisters that are just getting out of the POW camps, and they may not fully have all the information that we have been made available in their spirit, they too can have a basic stipend while they study. Because see, the goal of the study is so that all of us grow to minister the public trust. All companies, all corporations, all of that is all ministering the public trust. All of it is. That's what an initial public offering was all about with the stock market. Remember that. They called it an IPO because in reality, some private individuals got together and started something, and they know you make the most profit and money when you take it public, because then it's something that's going to help everybody. So when we talk about the restating of the labels of the clothing that's coming, the donations that are coming in, we're restating the donations, getting them ready to issue to the public. That is ministering the public trust. So Moors can pull Moors Arundellarium from their private trust, or we can issue it to them from the public trust when they get to the store, to the storehouse, where all of these things will be. A trust is used either way. Every Moors Arundellarium that is created comes from a trust. Whether it comes from the private trust or the public trust, it still comes from a gold trust. Because the universal trust that we talked about initially is a gold trust. The national trust is a gold trust. Let me show that again, this part right here. These are all three of these are gold trust, gold and silver, and the public trust is gold, silver, Moors Arundellarium, those subjects who want to do barter and exchange, it's all of that. So they're covered as well. You know, they're protected as well. and it's legal and lawful money and legal and lawful resources. Ministerial work. Yes. Our ministering work for benefit of public includes all training, erudite work to be anything. Yeah, all of that. Now, let's just say too that as we share the erudition and share all of this information with the public, our first job, first and foremost, is according to the treaty, which is to decide all things on the land. All things. That's according to the treaty, that the consul is to decide. And there doesn't have to be conflict for us to decide. In fact, there is no conflict because we're ministering peacefully. We're not at war with anyone. We're not fighting anyone. We don't have to fight anyone. This is what we set up, all of us. Okay? So, now let's go back to this. We minister the public trust. So the public trust is how those coming out of the POW camps will get access to either the public trust or their private trust. But either way, they have to set it up. They don't have to set up the public trust, but they have to learn to set up or remember to set up their private trust. Remember, it's not even learning, it's remembering to set up their private trust. And when they do that and put it on the public record, then anything issued from the public trust can be put back in there. So if we issue them 5,000 more stock allowing for them to get things from the storehouse, once they set up their private trust, okay, then they can put whatever it is back in there. But see, what they're really going to be doing when we issue from the public trust, what they're really going to be doing is getting on their own 2 feet so that they can help us minister the public trust. Because we're going to we are going to have, and we will to have, all hands assisting. Okay, all hands assisting. What does that mean? It also means that those who are starting businesses and things like that, they will, when their business reaches a certain point, after they've worked it a little while and their business reaches a certain point, then they can do an initial public offering, and then the Treasury will step in and take over and whatever it is that they, whatever their business plan says, okay, then the consuls will say, okay, they have done well with growing this private baby or this private process of whatever it is, and now they're doing an initial public offering, so then the public will finance what they're doing so that they can expand and everybody can come in and out. The problem from the last era's enactment regarding this same process is that corporations were pretending to be private. They were enacting being private. Well, no, they're not private. They're public, because they, all of them, went into the quote-unquote public trust to get started. All of them did it. And each year, they would get kickbacks from the IRS, quote-unquote, underwriting all that they do. That's why they could easily take a charge off if no one paid. If someone opened an account and they didn't pay, they would go in the Treasury and get in their enactment and get that amount out. Each year they would charge off debt. They would charge it off. Islam.
And that was because it was already prepaid for, because it came from the public in the first place. All of our estate.
Yes. Now, here is the nuance to that. Those who didn't pay the public back got a bad credit rating. They got a bad credit rating because they didn't pay the public, they didn't pay the people back. So the people had to say, okay, They're not responsible to pay. We're going to pay. We didn't know that all of that was going on as we kept signing things, did we? We didn't know that that's what was happening, and taxes kept going up, 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 up. So now, this new era that we're at is it's going to demonstrate, we're going to demonstrate proper handling of the private and the public trust. So when Moors come out of the POW camps, or when they declare their nationality, the public will assist them in getting on their feet while they study and do the things. So for example, I'll give an example of that with myself. Even though I worked for the money, quote unquote, because it wasn't real money, I'm a veteran. So I got veterans funds back every month for being a veteran. However, that was basically coming from it was coming from the public trust, essentially, except that I worked for it initially. So really it was all private. Let me think of another example, because it has to be one where I didn't work.
Islam, while you're thinking of that, let me just add one other point. Observation. It was because we did not have an express trust and we were not administering our own estates that they presumed that they had to step in, because we were not there administering our affairs. So they began to manage or pretend to manage until such time that we awaken as we have now. So it was the whole absence of us expressing the trust, okay, that gave them the so-called mandate in their minds to go forward with administrating over the public charitable trust. Because all we ever needed to do was to express the trust. That's all we really ever needed to do. And we were deficient in our ignorance, in our sleeping era of doing that. And that would have settled many of our quote-unquote problems with their legal system. Not all of them, but quite a few would have been dissolved just by that. If we understood that everything was in a public charitable trust, and the only thing we needed to do was to express that properly in our proper person. But we did not have all of this information. Now, I can see it clearly now, all right? Whereas when I was in the middle of going through it, there were things that were missing, parts that were missing. So the clarity wasn't all there. Islam.
Yes. And part of that clarity is knowing that we are the government and we are to create all of that. That's why we had to look at what they did and then restate it properly.
Exactly.
To express the trust, it says here, declared in terms, set forth in words. That's what the writing, the paper, the word. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word has always been with us. And then it says here, made known distinctly and explicitly, and not left to inference. Inference being guessing or someone else's interpretation. In order to be known distinctly and explicitly, you must declare who you really are, or else you're not really known. It says right here, and here's that word again, manifested by direct and appropriate language. In propria persona sui juris. As distinguished from that which is inferred from conduct. You can't act like it. You gotta be yourself. So when you say an express trust, it's again, the processes properly stated in words, exactly. That's why what we say is so important. That's why we don't just say, we don't leave any stones unturned in what we're doing. we state properly. Express means to not press or to previously press or to express. Ex means something from before. My ex-husband, which I don't have one of those, but I'm just saying that means the one from before. So to press before what we knew. To force out by pressure, to press or squeeze out as the juice of a fruit. There we are again with that fountain word that we talked about. As to express conditions, consent, consideration, contracts, covenants, dedication, emancipation, invitation, malice, notice, obligation, trust, waiver, and warranty. This is where the bonds and the nationality and the contracts, we don't contract with them, we contract with each other. Okay, so, and then here's the word intended. Necessarily implies previous knowledge of intended personal use. And that's why business plans are so important when you're talking about the public trust. We actually have to tell the public what we're doing with the public trust and the public money. Tell them beforehand with a business thing. So yes, the big buildings are there, but we have to say what we're going to do with them. So that's where ministering the public trust is concerned. Then again, as individual Moors and as individual subjects, everyone by law and by general welfare clause in the Constitution should have a decent roof over their head. Those who minister the public trust can do that honorably, however their wisdom, like Solomon, however their wisdom, like Deborah in the Biblios. Deborah was the first judge stated in the Biblios, prior to, well, after Lilith, of course, which is not in their Biblios, but is in the ancient writings. However, again, the sky is not even the limit on what we can do and own and demonstrate honorably at any time. Those that were acting as if they were us, being pretending to be Congress and all of that, they acted as if they were the rich people. And when you looked at the paper, it looked like they were very, very wealthy. And it looked like they got wealthy very quickly because they wrote things in their own favor. Well, yes, we're supposed to write the law in our favor as long as we all agree. And we do so honorably with our own financial system. So the big domiciles and all that stuff already belongs to us. It's already ours. It's just a matter of appropriation and allocation. So when you're talking about domiciles, they must be at the right location. You can't say that it's in WA, W-A, Seattle, WA. It's not there. Nothing exists there. It's Seattle, Washington. It's, Atlanta, Georgia. It's all of that. So the difference being, and hopefully this explanation or this clarification makes things a little clearer about what we're really doing and how we can prosper the quickest, because I know that's part of it too, is how we can prosper the quickest and how we can help the most people all at once and include everyone and uplift all of fallen humanity, of rising humanity rather, because they're not fallen anymore, is this way. So we have access to both the private trust and the public trust. As public workers public ministers, we have every right to minister the public trust even in our own favor, as we've done. Because what's good for them is good for us, because we're the public too. There is no them and us. We're all one. So whatever we want for ourselves, we want for everyone. And that is how the public trust is ministered. And then we take into our private trust the things that come from the public trust. So even when there is a public law that talks about the best way to register a conveyance, we've already talked about that. And we're going to continue to talk about those things. All of that, everything that we're doing, don't feel like you missed anything, because that's what government is continuing to publish how things are done. So you haven't missed anything. Just stay tuned first to your spirit, and then to Congress and to the things that are being done. We are to minister things in our favor, because when we minister the public trust in our own favor, we're also making it better for everyone. Okay, so when we talk about the buildings come by way of the public trust, because we're using them so that everyone in the public can come into the building, no matter who they are, no matter where they're from. They can come in and access whatever it is that's there based on who they are, on their identity. Okay, and then now based on identity is at the national level and the international level. Based on things that are not based on identity are at the public level, except that you must have an ID issued by the real government and not a fake. Okay, so anybody can shop at the place and use Morris Sovereign Delarium to get whatever it is, gold and silver, whatever it is, to get whatever they will to have. Anybody can do that. That's because that's at the public level. We are specifically interested in the Moors who are coming out of the POW camp, especially for extended periods in the POW camp. But it doesn't matter. We specifically are interested in them because they've had to do without for so long. But again, all are welcome. All are welcome, no matter who you are. You're welcome to use the public trust to get on your feet so you can help others. That's really what this is all about. All of this is all about that. So for personal cars and homes and things like that, that's the individual basic, the basic stipend or the work. Okay? All Moors should be working, because we're assisting each other with nationality and things of that nature. That's work for us. Assisting with nationality, assisting with IDs, assisting with, erudition and all of that. All of that is our work, because that's governing. And so, we work for the public, the people, and we minister their trust. So ministering the public trust is when the Moors come in, or anyone coming from, and I'm speaking more specifically because we were the ones left out in the last era of the majority of what was going on. But when I say that, subjects don't feel left out when I say that. We needed the most help, just like our prophet said. So ministering the public trust, that is our work, whereby whatever we reap from that in terms of our pay, okay, then we can put more things in our private trust when we're good stewards of our pay. when we're good stewards of our pay, because we have to be good stewards of the estate, or else the public won't trust us. That is why in the last era of enactment, before people could get certain jobs, they would run a credit check and a background check and la 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 la. Well, everybody has a clean slate now. Everybody has a clean slate. And then as we work and do the things that we're doing and ministering the public trust, how we minister the public trust will determine, okay, are we using our talents wisely? Because we're already very, very extremely wealthy already. The manifestation of that is determined by how we govern even what we have right now, which for most of us is not nearly what we're worth in terms of, you know, we could be doing so much better than we're doing right now when the work is done and our pay is in and we're managing it properly and all of that. You know, fortunately for us, the work we're starting out at the top. We're starting out at the chief CEO level. You know, and then for those that may not be as comfortable with that level, you can start out at with your private trust. And let's say you want to just start a little shop where you pull from your trust and you start a little shop. That is actually still probably going to come from all business comes from the public trust because the public is using it. So that's actually just good business acumen, good business principle is, you know. Now the difference too is if I take my paycheck and I start a business using my paycheck only, kind of like what we did, then I pay my own self back. Because remember, we talked about that. You pay yourself first, you know. But then the public trust is when you declare that, okay, this business is open and the public can come in, just like at the mall or any other place. Then you're talking about receiving from, you know, from those that are coming in who have either gold and silver or more sovereign delarium to sow into what you're doing. But it still is a public trust. So for starters, we will have to, Islam, for starters, we will be issuing and ministering the public trust to those who come into our business. We will be appropriating and allocating based on their identity. Okay, if they're subjects, they must be they just need an they should have an affidavit on paper, on white paper, stating that they are United States citizens, or not United States citizens, but American citizens. And then they have their ID, their driver license or their non-driver ID, and that we issue. So all territories will, you know, we'll have someone at all territories to issue the driver's licenses eventually. Because remember, when we started that process, we said we were going to do a pilot of it and then tell you how it's going. It's going very, very well, and people are ready for that. People are ready for the truth, the newness, the real government, the freedom. They're ready for that. So those who have the driver's licenses, you must do the same things that we've done. If there's a ticket or someone's trying to enact something, show that you have your affidavit on the public record of who you really are. Show your Moorish government ID, which is your driver's license. And either you can issue gold and silver to pay it, or you can issue Morris sovereign dollarium to pay it, depending on Islam.
I have a question for the Belinda, because she stated it.
We kind of don't want to we don't want to put anybody on the spot.
Well, no, I'm asking a question because she stated she had purchased a conveyance. So I wanted to know what medium of exchange did she use for it?
We can assume that it's from the last era, from fiat. We can assume that, or if it's not, it may not be, maybe not, because we have had more.
She had used her subject ID to buy gold, so I'm just inquisitive.
Yeah, let's let her keep that to herself about how she did that. It is our job to demonstrate our own stuff, our own things that we're doing. We don't want to put anybody on the spot unless she chooses to answer, but she doesn't have to. And in fact, I would prefer that she not answer that question.
All right.
Simply because we must demonstrate what we're doing. Because again, the subjects, they know what to do. They know what to do. They know how this works, but we're going to continue to state how things are to be done. I'm grateful that Belinda is here because she can assist the other subjects with what they're doing. She's a great example of that, the proper status on the land for those who are here.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that being stated, my question then is, how would you purchase a conveyance, Empress Angel? And you don't have to answer that. Just think about it and then demonstrate it. Now, I'll say this too. There are still, to get completely away from the fiat piece, because see, that's another answer to the question of not wanting to continue answering to the fiat monster, is we have to move away from getting things using a system that's not the right system. However, what we're doing now too, and this is something, Empress Angel, that has been coming to us based on the question that you asked from the last Congress about that person document that we just showed. We hereby state, because based on appropriation and allocation, we must state that all property, all land and everything is on the common areas of our land so that we can use our person to do things without using fiat. But again, we're manifesting that. So this storehouse that we're putting together, and each and every territory has to have a storehouse. This storehouse will be able to issue conveyances and everything that's restated, but it has to be restated by the governing chief justice, and those working together at the territories even to get it. That conveyance that we talked about, the Range Rover, the Land Rover, it has to be issued from the public trust. It has to be issued either from the public trust or from my private trust. I can issue it from the private trust, but it's a government vehicle anyway, so it's going to be coming from the public trust. And because it's coming from the public trust, it has to be properly recorded as such. So there may even be some things in my documentation. I believe it's correct, though, because we did put United States on all the documentation. Just a moment. Let me just look. These are the things that must be, yeah, it says United States. The vehicle vessel stated herein is United States property. Did you all notice that? Hopefully you noticed that on the title, is United States property. And this is how you get away from those that were previously commanding or demanding fiat for things, is to properly restate. So is it going to take a while, a little while for all the restatement of things to happen? It has taken a while, but we're there. We're there already. We know what restating things looks like. And then, Moors, we have to issue this to the subjects. We have to issue it to them. They cannot create these things. We must issue it just like in the last era, which goes back to Justice Willie's statement about counterfeiting and all of that stuff. There's no way we can counterfeit because we created everything that's here. It's only if we try to bring any of their forms into our processes that there's a problem. Those forms must be restated. Belinda, though, whatever documentation you used to purchase the conveyance that you purchased, it can be restated. We can restate that. It actually should be restated so that, again, you get away from having to go back to the port of the dead. You don't really want to keep going back there. Okay? So here's our suggestion. Say that again. Your statement is distorted. We can't understand what you're saying because it might be the internet a little.
I didn't purchase the purchasing document yet. I will get the title after, the final payment.
So, yes, okay. All of that will need to be restated.
So then I'll get the title, and then I'll send that to you.
Yeah. Okay. So all of that will have to be restated. And Belinda, I will say this: I am happy to restate everything that you have. I'm happy to restate it, and I won't even talk about gold and silver because, again, these are things that we're doing for ourselves, and then we must know how to issue that to those who are here. And so I'm happy to restate the documents for you if you want to email them to me or something of that nature. I'll recreate them here and then forward them to you. So you don't have to.
Get your
say that again because you're breaking up when you speak.
Oh, sorry. The email address. Sorry, I have bad Wi-Fi. The email address to send it to.
Yes. This is one, and this one right here, lightbaymooresnation@gmail.com. I'll probably get it quicker there if people don't inundate the email. I can get it right away. So if you would use this one, lightbaymooresnation@gmail.com, then we'll be able to get it quickly.
So were you able to free up the other one?
I have not been able to because every time I publish it, it just gets inundated with stuff, and so that's why this one has been freed up. This one has been, but see, as soon as we do it, some Moors feel like they have to copy us on everything they do, and they don't have to do that. You see. So if you would send it to this one, Belinda, we'll restate everything that you have and forward it to you. Because this is these are all. Say again. Okay. Okay. Islam. Because see, the fiat, anything that you used fiat to get has to be restated. It has to be restated because the fiat is the contract. And right now people are, and again, we're not mad at people using fiat. We just know that with that comes, interest by frauds, wanting you to stay under their jurisdiction when that's just not the way to go. It's not the way to go because it's as we can see, it's a money pit, quote unquote. So yes, so with that being stated, we must restate all documentation, and we're demonstrating that at every turn. At every turn, we're demonstrating that. So we've had to do it here with this domicile, and also with, because see, my domicile has a public part and a private part. It has the public part where anyone can come and get nationality documentation done and things of that nature. They can come here and talk about nationality and talk about whatever is going on with them. If they would just pick up the phone and call, or well, they can't pick up the phone and call, but if they would give us some heads up that they're coming, and sometimes more don't do that, they just come, and we don't mind. And then there's the private part of the domicile. So we're delineating all of that to ensure that the public trust is honored, and also that our private trust is honored. So anything that has any fiat in it has to be restated, because of the contract part of that, just because of what is the stickiness.
Question.
Of the fiat. Islam.
So have you ever thought of asking people to serve as like center points, different places where they're like, they can, you like, say for instance, I'm here, somebody want the documents in Canada, they can come through me because I work along with you guys, because I just turned down an offer to do the same thing as chief for the Maroons. They've been asking me for years to do it, and I kind of like reluctant because it's not everything I agree with what they do, so I have a challenge doing that. So I was wondering, why don't we, because they're spreading their tentacles and creating their global government, so why don't we do a similar thing where, we spread our tentacles all over the world? What do you think about that? Because I'm here, I am willing to work along with you guys to, persons want their IDs, their document, blah, blah, blah. They can come through me, to you, blah, 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 and whatever. So I think it's something we need to look into, because we're lacking that, and before you know it, somebody else may just decide to do it.
So we are absolutely, thank you for that, first and foremost, and thank you for the offer. We accept the offer. Here's the situation. We don't use fiat, we don't charge fiat for people to come and for people to do. it's always gold and silver and more sovereign dolarium. So we've already stated on the public record that every more, it's not even an option. We must assist everybody else with ID, with nationality documents and all of that. So we don't necessarily crown someone a consul. When they declare their nationality, they're automatically a consul. They automatically should be helping other people with ID. They automatically should be assisting where they can. And where they can't, work on, then just use that area to demonstrate until you can. We've had
yes, sister, but what you say, if you go, I notice you use the Bible a lot. The Bible, if you go back in the book of, I think it was Exodus thereabouts, it shows about structure. That's where mankind get the idea of structure. One appoint as president and a deputy, blah, 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 and they all give, the Bible says they appoint people based on their several gifts, but you have an overall, so that's how you create a system, an organization. When you decide to just leave it up to everybody, you're going to create chaos because everybody's going to be doing their own thing and doing it wrong and doing it this way and that way and create a lot of confusion. Whereby when we have a proper system, it is structured, it is organized, it is an engine that works together to achieve a vision, a goal, a mission, etc. That is how I think we should structure it, not just leave everybody at random. Because, I can just buy a machine and print card for everybody who wants. But I would prefer a structured system where you're at the helm, there you have the head office there, and there's structure. You relate to me, I relate to you, and we work hand in hand with whoever across the globe. That's how I think it should be. My suggestion.
Islam. So we appreciate that suggestion. However, we're already doing that. Structure to us is everyone's responsibility because everyone is the Lord for the land. Everyone, all Moors are. Now, here's the thing about acceptance of that responsibility. Because, see, what you're saying is that it's going to be chaos if we just say everyone has to do this. We are actually showing each process and how we do it. And then we've all agreed to speak with one voice. We've agreed to do that already. So our structure is far more expansive than it is constrictive. Our structure is open. It's an open structure. In other words, we're showing we show what our IDs look like, okay? We've shown that our IDs don't have a barcode on them. They're IDs that we create. We've shown what the nationality paperwork looks like. But here's the thing, even about that. We can point people to places that they can go to download nationality documents. Everyone can point them to RV Bay Publications, or they can create them themselves, okay? Because one thing we know about this whole thing is, number one, those who are going to do the work are going to do it. Those who are not interested in doing it are not going to do it. I don't care how many titles you pile on somebody's head. If their motive is different, they're going to do something different. Even if you say someone is the head. We've seen in the last era that you can appoint someone the head, but are they going to do? Or are those who have the will to do it going to do it? See, we don't appoint people and we don't vote on people because it's our obligation. It's not an option. We must govern. And at these territories, everyone, if there's a need for a president, whoever is there working, do whatever is necessary. If there's a need for a chief justice, whoever is there, do it. Because we have all authority, all power. And we're going to stick with that because that's how the ancestors told us to present. Because
I guess I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I guess I understand what you're saying because there are various types of leadership.
Yes, they're going to rise. The cream is going to rise to the top. The cream is going to rise to the top.
Yeah. I can see where you're going. I see where you're going. It's just a different leadership style. Some people would want a central location, while others just say, you know what, no. Do your thing in your base. Do whatever you feel, and it's fine. We work together. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But like I say, I was just thinking that when I see how others do it, But yeah, that's fine. I am very impressed to take up the mantle here in Canada. It's and maybe I should be. And maybe I need to just make some more concerted effort and things like that. But I see where we have something good, and we need to build on it, and the earlier the better, because it's the reset we're going into, and the earlier we get our foundation strong, is the better for us, because we're going to be up against a system that is saying, hey, you will owe nothing, and you'll be happy. You'll eat the bugs and drink the sewage water,
Justice Willie, we don't do anything out of fear of that. We don't. That's just a bunch of nonsense. We don't do anything out of fear. We're not going to structure our system based on fear. And I know that's not what you were saying, but that was kind of funny, because I've heard that. I heard that state. Those things.
Yeah, they want 15-minute cities where you can't travel no more than this or that. You want to own your vehicle, da. Yeah, I'm yet to see that. I think it would be a nightmare for anybody to try that.
It will be for anyone who stays in that system.
Yeah.
That's why when we restate something, who can tell us what to do with it when we're the ones who wrote it into law?
Yeah.
Nobody. And that requires everyone. It can't. The hierarchy is natural. It's a natural hierarchy. It's a natural structure. The natural structure is that the natural people are at the top of the structure, but we got to do the work because it's our estate.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, and those who listen, to each the measure of his will and his talent.
Mm-hmm.
Those who want their freedom and who want their wealth and access to their estate will work for it and get it. They'll get it. And then those who don't, they won't suffer. They just won't prosper as much because they've chosen. It's a choice. It's a choice. Mm-hmm. Prosperity is a choice. Government is a choice. It's a choice. All of that is a choice. Slavery is a choice. It's a choice.
Government governed through the consent of the governed.
Period. But see, our thing is everything that we do is by the assent of whoever it is. Those Moors that don't want to do it a certain way, okay, you don't want to do it that way. We can't tell sovereigns what to do. We cannot tell sovereigns what to do. Mm-hmm. But what we can do is demonstrate what we know.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody really want to hear anything somebody talking about if they can't demonstrate it. So what are we doing? Demonstrating our economic liberty, our wealth. We're demonstrating all of that. It takes step by step by step. And here's the thing: nothing we do. If I were to ever think about something from a place of fear. Because I've done that in the past where I thought about something because of a fear programming. The ancestors will always say, nope, don't do it. Don't do anything from that vantage point because that's not the truth. So wait until you clear that energy before you do any demonstration or doing anything. Now, I have had to demonstrate in a state of fear. I've had to do that before, but I just demonstrate what I know, and it worked every time. So we're not worried about anybody stealing any processes or anything. In fact, we're like, this must be done. It must be. But it's a choice. It's a choice again. It's still a choice. The Maroons that are doing what they're doing and things of that nature, what happens when listen, I'm grateful that they're doing what they're doing because at least they know they're not black. So in the past, now on a different note, in the past, if you appoint somebody to be the president or the grand sheik or whatever, if you appoint them to do that, if you can put them up, you can take them down. If the people vote on somebody, they can unvote or take them down or remove them or whatever. And see, our estate is not. We don't have that luxury here at our estate. We don't have that luxury of having people be put up and taken down, put up and taken down, put up because they're put up and they're happy with the title, but they can't do the job. Okay, we don't have time for that. Anyone who can do the job, step up because those on the front lines will prosper. Period. Because we're making all the laws for our estate. And like I stated before, we're going to make the law in our favor. Let's put that on the record. That's not a secret. Because why would we put it in the favor of warmongers or whatever? Nope, we put it in our own favor. So the structure is here. It just doesn't look like the last era of structure. We have Moors from all over the earth who hear and they say, okay, well, what does our IDs look like? We've shown what our IDs look like. Okay, they do their IDs at Japan and Thailand and Indonesia and France and South America and the islands. They do them the same way we do them. Ours and theirs looks identical. That's the structure. See, it's an earth-wide structure. It's not just the structure for North America. It's earth-wide. And they get it. The Moors get it. And then they govern according to what's going on at their territories and things. They govern according to that. And in some cases, in 99% of the cases, it's going to be the same as the way we do it. There'll be that 1% nuance where there'll be one or two little things that's a little bit different, but that doesn't happen often. And we are the remedy. All of us, we are the remedy when we do this together. I honor what you're seeing, Justice Willie. I honor what you're seeing. We're looking at we're ensuring that structure stays in place, but it cannot be a structure that pigeonholes and limits and is proprietary because it's earth-wide. What we're doing is earth-wide. And that's why anyone who declares their nationality of the original bloodline and birthright can print up their own Moorish sovereign dolarium because they have a trust. And it's backed by gold because that's what the Congress did. It's earth-wide. Earth-wide. And the thing is, again, everyone must govern. It's not optional. That's the structure. We were the head of the earth, period, from the beginning. That's the structure. And that's the only structure the rest of the earth trusts. They don't trust any other structure, as we can see. They don't. It's always been us. Every one of us. If you walk into a room filled with Moors and you ask who's in charge, everybody's supposed to stand up and say, we are. And there's not a single one of us that has more authority than the other. Competence and energy are key. Period. So I'm grateful for what you stated, Noble Willie, because it might look like that, like a little chaotic, because we're not saying that, light is the president and this is. We're all the president. That's the thing about the structure is we all are the all. All of us are the president. So if there's some presidential duty that needs to be done, we all do it.
Right.
Or at least one of us will do it, and that covers the rest. That's why we say I and all Moors, because we're covering all bases at once, all of them at once, which is an earth-wide strategy. That's an earth-wide. It's called the mothership strategy, really. If you look at military tactics and if you look at how the mothership operates, that the mothership strategy is the only strategy that is unable to be defeated by any central mechanism. The mothership strategy is like the measles or the mumps or when someone breaks out in bumps on their body and the bumps just pop up everywhere, all over the place, and you're like, well, where did this even start? I don't know, because I got bumps everywhere. That's a mothership strategy. Everyone.
There was a template on one of the Moorish websites, and it was taken down. Can you say if there's a template available? Because there's a lot of Moors who are struggling to do their own trust, as you encourage everyone to have a private trust. Where would you direct such individuals to find a template that they can use from the Moors?
So we have a lot of templates there's links under our videos where when you hit the link, it's going to take you to a folder that will have like 40-something documents. Under these videos at Light Tajiri Bay channel, you can look at any of those links and pull trust documents, nationality documents. A lot of the things are in ancient English. One of the folders has mostly ancient English documents, and the other folder has documents that are more in common English. So you can look at those, or you can go to RV Bay Publications. They have some basic templates there for trust documents and things, because that's where we started out. We're happy to and again we are not a part of RV Bay Publications, as it were. We're different from them, and the only reason we're saying that is because I think they feel comfortable with us saying that we're not a part of what they're doing. However, we're comfortable pointing people there because we already know the Spirit is going to tell them whatever else they need to know. The Spirit will lead them on how to present that. Otherwise, you can go under any of our videos and find the documentation, any of them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Islam.
I have a question about trust.
Islam.
So my question is, when you are setting up your trust, do you have to have a trustee? And if you don't have a trustee, how do you go about doing that?
Okay, there's a lot of noise coming from different lines and things. If you all would please mute, except for the Empress that was speaking, unless there's, So you, first and foremost, are all offices for your trust to start with. You don't ever have to appoint anyone else as beneficiary, trustee, trustor, any of that. Yes, the sovereign is all for your trust. Yes. That's so good. Yes. Look up the word sovereign and see what it means.
Okay.
Let us do that now on the screen, because this is important. Because see, we were to minister our own estates anyway. We should have been doing that anyway. So let's look up the word sovereign really quickly so we can see what that means. There's someone else speaking too.
No, it was not speaking too.
Just a moment.
Sorry.
Empress Nana, I think you're unmuted. So here's the word sovereign. A person, body, or state in which independent and supreme authority is vested. A chief ruler with supreme power, a king or other ruler, and this says with limited power because it was written by those with no power. A sovereign has independent and supreme authority. The estate had to start somewhere. Your estate starts with you and you alone. Then you can bring others in at will or not.
How does that work if I'm in Canada and I'm trying to deal with Treasury Direct in the U.S.?
That's a beautiful question. It goes back to, the answer to that question is this. When we were dealing and are dealing with our Treasury and Treasury Direct, quote unquote, we must know that Treasury Direct is us and us alone. But how do we notify the Treasury of anything? Send documents, send notifications, etc. This is how you do it. You go online and you get the address for whatever it is that you're doing. So you're saying Treasury Direct. So we'll just use this address that we see here. This address that you see on the screen right here is not correct. It's close, but no cigar. You don't get the prize for this one. The way we do it to notify our ancient treasury is according to the definition of the word address, because we're speaking to a court. So we are not talking to any department of treasury because we're the treasury. So this is the difference between a fake treasury and a real treasury. And you can say District of Columbia or District for Columbia.
Right.
So when you're dealing with things, whatever address you're sending things to, it must be properly stated and everything spelled out. That is how you know you've reached the right court.
Ah, yes.
Because remember, where equity is concerned, the proper address is a court.
Yes.
And we know that something called D.C. That's not a state, that's not a city, it's not a place at all. It doesn't exist. That's the difference. It's the little foxes that enhance the vine.
Yes.
And that's how you know that you've gotten to the right place. And then as you're dealing with Treasury Direct, whoever it is that you're dealing with there, let's say, because the subjects, they pretty much don't really talk about who's who and what's what anymore, really. We'll just use this as an example. Always put the word subject, yes, and then a colon, and then first name and then last name of the subject in the office of Treasury when you're dealing with your Treasury and your estate and all of that. Because see, Treasury Direct is not direct unless it leads directly to you. You and the subjects in your office.
That's what makes me the law.
Yes.
Islam.
And then You're welcome. And let me say this one thing really quickly also. Whenever I send anything out for my address, this is how I do mine. Up in the upper left corner, I'll say
just own it.
That's how my address is and it's usually in blue.
So it's better if I put a maximum than if I put Canaan land? Or can I stay with Canaan land when I talk to them?
You can do it however your spirit says to do it, Empress. The system recognizes, for example, if you have the Canaan land, you know, CVG 091. I'll just use that as an example. You would put yourself as the treasurer.
Right.
And you can say United States Treasury because there's really only one. The fraud and debt is not a treasury.
Right.
There's only one. We've already stated and created that treasury. And then put your mailing location.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay?
Excellent.
All Moors should be naming themselves as the treasurer. All. Yes. My title depends on which office I'm speaking to. If I'm sending something to my office of president, then I'm the president, and they are the subject.
Yes.
Okay? That's how we do everything that we're doing, because and it's been accepted every single time. Every time it's been accepted. Every time it works.
This is excellent.
We've always been the head and never the tail. We're the head and the body. We're the head and the body. So it's like you work at home and you work from home and you telling the employees in your office what to do. And not really what to do, but what you've already done. So when you're sending something for deposit, you say it's already been, this has been deposited, because you're really just notifying them. This has been deposited in the Treasury in the amount of $100 million, period.
So behave as if it already is. So you write it and send it, yes, and be aware, yes, that it's already done by the time you put it in the mailbox.
It's done when you write it.
Ah, yes. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It is an honor. So let's all keep that in mind, that it's done when you do it, because see, nobody else can. Don't nobody else have any real money but you. No one can put anything in your treasury but you. No one can do any of that but you. And as we do these things, the system will switch some things around, and you'll see levers in the system start switching, and you'll see things start changing around. It's subtle, but it's very, very noticeable. Subtle, but very noticeable. The same way that the actors previously in the last era, when you listen to the things that the funny mirror was talking about, they can look and see that things are closing down and shutting down on them and doing this and that. They can tell what we're doing by what they're seeing. So, yeah, We don't spend a whole lot of time in the funny mirror. Well, and I can't really say that because I can look at it, but it doesn't feel like the funny mirror to me because my filter knows it's acting. And so I pull from it what I can pull from it in terms of, oh, we can do this and we can do that and we can do this and that and this is how that part of the system works. Let's restate this, let's restate that. And every time it works, every time. On this mountain, we have destroyed the shroud that presumed to enfold all people. The sheet that presumed to cover all nations is destroyed. It was because it was paper. Yes, Sheikh L. Klein Bay says, and I'll state what you said in the positive. When you can manage your estate, then you can also manage the public estate, not other people, the public trust. The public trust is what's in the public trust, or not what, but who's in the public trust? All those who do not manage their own affairs. That's who's in the public trust. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It is what it is. But then again, as we continue to stand, and just like it's taken us six years to get to this point. For us, it's been 6 years to get to this point of knowing all and seeing all that we see and know. And for you all as well, you knowing all and seeing all that you know and see. And so those who can govern their own affairs, you'll know it because they'll be doing it. Don't even worry about what's coming out of people's mouths. And that goes back to Justice Willie's question about structure. The structure is those who govern competently, you're going to know it because you're going to see them prospering. You're going to know it. Islam, Justice Kansu.
CVD. What does that stand for?
Justice Kansu, I cannot hear what you're saying. Can you speak up just a little bit?
I said when it says excuse me, when it says CVD, what does that mean?
When it says
in blue.
In blue. Oh, CVG. I was just using that as an example. This is because this is the format for Canaan land zip codes, basically, essentially. So I was just using that as an example. Okay. With that being stated, wisdom prepares for a large inheritance. We said this before. We'll state it again because it's important. So now, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom, anything of that nature regarding the trust? And there are 3 parts to the trust also, because you know we do things in 3s. There's appropriation, there's allocation, and there's authorization. So the 3 A's. Appropriation, allocation, and authorization. Nationality is the first step for authorization because you actually have to have the right to touch the resources, the gold, the silver, and whatever. You have to have the right to pull it from the ground if necessary. That's first and foremost. The earth, you must have access to it first. That's the first authorization. That's like kind of like you could call it pre-authorization is nationality. Competence is post-authorization. Competence and being peaceful is part of being competent because you know that you're not at war with anyone. You don't have to war with that which you create. I don't have to argue with anybody about my daughter. She came from me. So No one can just take her and be like, okay, this is my child. No. The estate is already ours. We don't have to fight with anybody for it. We just have to properly proclaim it. Now, if I'm always calling my daughter somebody else's name, then that's a problem. So, because she's going to be looking at me like I'm crazy, and other people are going to be like, that's not her name. But when we state the proper appellation for her and all of that, and properly identify her, she's going to feel comfortable, and no one else will have a claim. And I'm talking about when she was younger. She's older now. She's adult. She is of the majority. But so if there are no further questions, comments, or wisdom, we still do have a few more, let's see, we have a few more articles left to do. We stopped at Article 11 in the last Congress, and we only have 4.5 articles to go. So shall we put these as first on our agenda for Sunday? Not Sunday, Thursday. Or do you all want to do them now? We'll put them first on Thursday, because today is Sunday. Islam. Say it again, Empress.
I'm saying first on Thursday.
Islam. I agree. I affirm that.
I affirm.
Thank you.
I affirm.
I affirm. Thank you.
Islam.
I affirm.
Thank you.
We can't kill the goose that lays the golden egg.
That's true. Islam. Okay, so hopefully this shed a little more light on how we're going to be ministering the trust as the Moors come in from wherever, and from the POW camps, from the streets, from everywhere. As they come in, we open their private trust by way of the public trust. That's really kind of what it and correct me if that doesn't sound as explanatory. We are the public trust because we're ministering it, and then we assist them so that they can help minister the public trust. That's really the goal of this, is that they get their footing so that they can help everyone else. Because every one of us, when we first nationalized, we were already ready to help people, and we really didn't know much. I know that was my thing. I was like, I'm trying to help everybody. And Ancestors was like, well, wait, you got a few demonstrations to do first. So we did them. And now it's continuing to demonstrate and helping others do the same. So with that being stated, if there's nothing further from this amazing... Yes.
Can I make mention one more thing, please?
Yes, Empress.
It will take me a short while. I see you only with eyes of love, and I glory in your perfection. I found myself saying this affirmation for a while because I was traveling back and forth to the tropics, and my brother had a blow in his eye, and because he did not have enough help quickly enough, he lost the eye. And when I had a blow in my eye, I had a outpatient treatment, and what I had to look for was floaters. So I educated myself on floaters. But the blow in my eye happened because I was at the YMCA doing exercise and in a very negative space. And the difficulty continued for me, and it took months before I actually had to go and get help. However, until I discontinued that negative voice that I was unconsciously taking in because I was going to my workouts first thing in the morning, and until I found a statement to restate the stuff that I was picking up and swallowing whole first thing in the morning, I see you only with eyes of love. Yeah. And I glory in your perfection. And that was the statement that got me to the place that I stopped having difficulty with it. And this year I did a cleanse for 6 months. And for a while I also had to wear an eye patch. And I just want to say finally one more time, I see you only with eyes of love, and I glory in your perfection. Thank you for hearing me out.
Very beautiful. I have goosebumps. That is very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Thank you, Empress. Ooh, that's powerful. You sent some very strong energy, very beautiful, strong energy to us with that, Empress.
Peace and love. It's all love.
Yes, it is. And you know what? We hereby, with our strongest, highest honor, return that. Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very, very beautiful. Oh. Islam. With that being stated, I think that's a great place for us to adjourn until Thursday. Enjoy the rest of the Christomah, which is the Christ Mother, and the Christomas, which is the Christ Moors celebration. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs, Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam. Peace and grand rising.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Gratitude for my ears. Peace and love.
One love to all.
Great work. Great work. Peace and love, family. We got this, y'all. Grand rising.
Yes, we got it. Yes, we do.
Peace and love.
Thank you.
Love, Sister Light.
Deepest gratitude and praise.
Thank you, Sister Light.
Y'all have a great evening.
You as well, nobility. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. We will. Is that Justice Frank? Is that just our Justice Frank?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, my sister.
That's our Justice Frank. We missed you.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to get back with you. I'm still passing the test.
We're so glad to hear your voice. You just don't know, our soul is happy. Thank you for being here. We missed you so much.
Yeah, I'm proud of all my Moors. Y'all doing such a wonderful job.
Oh, we love you so much. Just know that. And we never stop thinking about you. Just know that.
I never stop demonstrating. I'm kicking butts out here.
I know it. We know you are. We could feel your energy. We could feel it. Islam. Thank you so much for being here, Justice Frank. We're so glad you're back.
Grand rising to the Moors.
Islam.
I love my Moors.
We love you too. We love you too so much. And with that, we will adjourn. Peace and grand rising. Islam.